obsessions over you. Keep me guessing, what's your move? Something in the way you walk, lose my grip when you talk that talk. You're possessing my point of view. Is that what you like? Girl, is that what you like? You can touch, I don't mind. If you break, you bite. Is that what you like? Is that what you like? Is that dress, it's too tight. Guess if that's what you like. Is that what you like? Is that what you like? Is that dress, it's too tight. Guess if that's what you like. Bada bada bing bing, bada bada boom. All eyes on you when you're stepping in the room. Little bit of vintage, little bit of new. Little bit of tension, little bit of you. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You can bring a friend, come and get it to the moment. Fly you to Japan, I'ma take you on a road trip. We don't got a plan, we can push it to the morning. Is that what you like? Girl, is that what you like? You can touch, I don't mind. If you break, you bite. Is that what you like? Is that what you like? Is that dress, it's too tight. Guess if that's what you like. Is that what you like? Is that what you like? Is that dress, it's too tight. Guess if that's what you like. Bada bada.
Everything one, check. Everything I do, pack a punch, back it up, stack it up to the sky now, rack it up. Planet of the brakes won't sink, just swim. The master blaster boombox on 10, throwing Hail Mary, except I ain't trying to pass it. It's still very on to the casket drops. I accelerate to the pedal brakes. When we celebrate, I make you levitate. First in, last to leave, always. Reign supreme, victory on stage. I come alive when the pyro hits from the 213 to the 416. Yeah, opposition, I don't see none. Just me and me going up on a run. Competition, I don't need none. Just 1v1, v1, v1. It's all on, all year, all night. It's all on to the sunlight. Opposition, I don't see none. Just 1v1, v1, v1, v1. Right here, right now, right quick. I'm on a UFO, extraterrestrial trip. Come through stomping with my boots on, just to watch you freeze like the Yukon. Tell them run up, come catch the Stone Cold Stunner. Been on go mode the last 3 summers. The one of one, and there ain't no runner up. Coming up, and there ain't no wonder. I rip it, dip it, and die. Yeah, fish could fly, you better all look alive. Put your pride aside, I'm on the ride too high to come down now, I never could tell a lie. Opposition, I don't see none. Just me and me, going up on a run. Competition, I don't need none. Just 1v1, v1, v1. It's all on, all year, all night. It's all on to the sunlight. Opposition, I don't see none. Just 1v1, v1, v1, v1.
be doing this again. What is this, you ask? If you're one of a very strange, a confused YouTube viewer. Well, this is a casting boot camp for the good people, Ka-chan, Cara Carter, Cara Shaker, and of course, Jesse Harper, as they prepare for their first show and by far their biggest show of their casting careers. They're all brand new casters, and they're all very passionate about the game of Flesh and Blood. Two things that I love to talk about in any capacity, but especially in this one, in a casting VOD review. Thanks so much, everybody trickling in. Jesse, I see you there. Don't act like you didn't love it last time. So if you are just tuning in and you didn't watch part 1, which was last week, honestly, the only part that I thought we were going to do in this, what is now becoming a series. Yeah, no pressure, Jesse. You'll be fine. If you missed part 1, I was sent 3, I would say very like greenhorn VODs by Jesse, Cara, and Ka, showcasing each of the 3 possible pairings between those 3 casters. And we kind of figured out where they each best fit in their respective teams. Yeah, I can turn up my mic. Coming at you, V-Structor. Thanks for keeping me honest on the technicals, brother. Let's give me, I don't know. Let's give me +5. How does that feel? Más o menos. Let me give myself even a little more. I have a feeling I'm going to need a little bit of juice for the VODs today. When I just did a very, very quick review, it seemed like they were a little bit low as well. Okay, sorry, where was I? If you didn't see part 1 of this thing that we did last week, we've given our first round of notes to each of these 3 casters in hopes of getting them up to snuff for this coming Saturday. That is, of course, the fated day of the Grave Troll Games Battlegrounds, the show that they're going to be casting all together. It will be produced by Arcane Games and Events. We're really excited to be supporting a store that has meant so much for the New England circuit, and also some individual people that have made it so fun and also made it possible along the way. And now we get to come back after their week of homework and see if they've improved. Cool, huh? All right, let's go ahead and get right to it then. Actually, got to do a little plug before we get down there, and that is, of course, for one of the other ways you can engage with me personally, and that is Cardboard and Beyond. I've just released my 10th episode, which you might think means I've been doing this for 10 weeks. No, my release schedule is a little bit more inconsistent than some of the other Flesh and Blood podcasts on the scene, but that's because they take a heck of a lot of research and hours to be put into them, and it's something I'm very happy to do because each one is all about an intimate conversation with the great people in the game of Flesh and Blood. This episode features Colin Erickson, who is a teammate of mine and our most recent U.S. national champion. If you haven't heard his name before, then you probably haven't been watching the AGE Open Series, which would mean that I'm kind of surprised that you're here at all. But I highly recommend you check that episode out. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and of course, the wonderful world of YouTube. So check that out for me. There is a bonus section that I hope to implement with each passing episode. That bonus section is only available on AG Premium, though, so do become an AG Premium subscriber so you can check that out. The bonus, the addendum to Cardboard and Beyond, I'm calling it, is just a continuation of the in-depth conversations you can expect from CNB, but done over the course of a match of Flesh and Blood between myself and my guest. My guest gets to choose the hero that I pilot, the hero that they pilot, even the format. So it can get rather zany, but kudos to Colin because he's a very open and vulnerable guy, and he has no qualms about wearing his heart on his sleeve. And so that's something really refreshing to see in the scene. so thankful that he joined me for that, and that's one you will not want to miss. Vistructor says, I finally remembered to get AGE Premium thanks to Breakpoint's podcast for the reminder. Awesome, which means I hope you got a cheeky 50% off on that first month as well, Vistructor. Hope you used the Breakpoints partner code. Very thankful to have them and so many other illustrious content partners out there for AG. They've been helping us spread the good word. Okay, on to the show, shall we? So, last week, we started with Jesse and Ka. So I'm just going to go in reverse order from what I saw last week, which means that Cara and Jesse are up first. Jesse, you ready? I know you're here. Let's kick it off.
Welcome back, everyone.
Let's take a minute to
In
figure
the
out
last
our
round,
audio
Ice
as
stood
well.
stalwart
I'm going to
against
give them a
fire
little bit
in
of
match
extra
between Jarl and
juice.
Syndra, and in round
And then we'll go back to
three,
the beginning.
Draconic Ninjas
Let's
strike
go
again
crazy.
with Phi Rising Rebellion
How's that
piloted
feel,
by
y'all?
Theo against Vadim on
feel
Arachne
okay?
Marionette. I'm Cara Shaker, that's Jesse Harper, and we are getting ready to join our competitors in the feature match
Sounds good
area.
to me. So
Jesse,
I'm going to proceed
what
until
is your
somebody tells me
experience with
otherwise.
these-
Okay, so let's go ahead and unsee, resee. Here we go.
Welcome back, everyone. In the last round, Ice stood stalwart against Fire in a match between Jarl and Syndra, and in round three, the Draconic Ninjas strike again with Phi Rising Rebellion piloted by Theo against Vadim on Arachne Marionette. I'm Cara Shaker, that's Jesse Harper, and we are getting ready to join our competitors in the feature match area. Jesse, what is your experience with these two heroes?
Fantastic. Okay, so I should also mention before I get too crazy here that our roles have been delineated. Hooray! So that we don't have to play a guessing game. In this case, Cara is very clearly on play-by-play, but I do have confirmation in the title of the video. So Cara's on play-by-play, Jesse is on color. After last week, we did kind of feel like Jesse seemed most comfortable in the color seat, and Ka and Cara were bringing the house down on play-by-play. There's still a lot of work to be done, but finding our rightful places is an important part of that journey so that we can all shine as best as possible. As a quick review to everybody who's asking themselves, what the heck is color and what the heck is play-by-play? Play-by-play is mainly responsible for driving the broadcast, the bus that is the broadcast. Sometimes we refer to it as driving the bus. That refers to keeping us on track when it comes to the interstitial moments, like the one that Cara just presented that's coming back from a break into the next match. She's going to set the stage. She is, during the game, responsible for who, what, where, when. That would be in regards to everything that you're seeing being played. The analyst, the color seat, which is currently occupied by Jesse, is responsible for why, which even though that seems like much less things to focus on, the why is incredibly important. The expert in the room provides the context on which we view the entertainment product that is a game of flesh and blood. So I really liked the way that Cara introduced that match. It went right in line with the way that we were trying to jazz that particular section up during our last week's review. So what she did is she found a slightly more colorful way to say welcome back to the show. Although the actual words chosen at the very beginning there were welcome back. I'm not going to nitpick that too much. That is a comfort zone thing. But in the future, Cara, as we get more and more comfortable with that kind of thing, I could even see a drop in the words welcome back, because they can very quickly go from a safe zone to a crutch. And we want to find fun and interesting ways to welcome our audience back. What you did do, however, is remind us where we just came from, which is cool, because if viewers that are a part of the live VOD missed that, they might remember it and go back and see that Jarl game, because oh boy, Jarl is going to be talk of the town, I think. At least if you are one Pablo Pintor. Okay, so the thing that I want worked on here, though, is just the overall vibe. It still felt a little bit robotic, Cara, and that is something that is going to become with reps and time. And I'm sure there's a certain element of rehearsal that you gave to that intro, which is totally fine in the beginning, but eventually we are going to have to pull a Michael Scott and start a sentence when you don't really understand where it's going, because sometimes that's where the best stuff comes from. I do have to laud everybody for last week, because the one thing you didn't do, which I can't say for myself, of course, is accidentally insinuate that you want to make out with your co-caster. Don't do that. and you're already not doing that, so kudos to all of you.
So I really like playing this version of Fi, so that primarily my experience comes on the Fi side. With the recent metagame developments of things like Boots of Omnis Ward or even the common draft equipment out of Omens of the Third Age, I found that
Also, by the way, dear audience, if you're wondering why this VOD is paused, it is not a bug. This is something I encouraged the casters to do because the VODs that they are using for practice don't necessarily give them the same opportunity that they'll have during the live broadcast, which will be, a caster shot on them as they come back from break where they get to set up the match that they're about to see before them. There was also, as part of the AGE kind of production suite, there's a nice little intro match overlay where you get to have a little bit of music and see both of the heroes featured next to the players with the player cam. So that is why this is paused at the moment, and they're using this moment to get all of the pre-game stuff out of the way.
this matchup gets really, really good for Fi when he's able to deny the Arachne Marionette that first mark and deny him the ability to use the Mask of Deceit.
Cool.
So that's what I'd be looking for here, as well as maybe a couple copies of Shelter out of the Fi deck in the Arachne, having to sidestep those cards as best he can.
No, it's
Okay, cool. So Cara passed over to Jesse right after she did a brief setup of the match. Fantastic. Jesse set the stage with a brand new piece of equipment that can be a thorn in the side of Arachne Marionette. And in general, kind of giving us the vibe without directly saying it, which is totally okay, that he is feeling good if he's in the Fi seat.
sounds like it's going to be an interesting matchup, especially where we have a deck that can kind of punch the face with Arachne Marionette, but one that can go so wide as the Draconic Ninjas are want to do. So I think we are just about ready to meet our players down in the match area.
Okay, so Cara, I liked the way you picked up what Jesse was putting down. However, what we talked about last week was trying to avoid verbal affirmations when you receive the throw. I would put, while it was a little less subtle than, the Yaz that Ka was doing last week, I would say it sounds like it's going to be an interesting match is kind of one of those things we could do without. Just go ahead and launch into your point. That's a-okay. And also don't be hesitant if you're in the play-by-play seat to provide some extra context if you understand the matchup, or ask an additional question of Jesse, because he did kind of go over everything from the Fi seat and didn't mention it to talk about Arachne Marionette. An example of something that I might do in this case is, yes, Boots of Omnis Ward has been telling the demise of Arachne Marionette, even though not but a couple months ago he was one of the most fearsome decks in the room. Is there anything that they can do to adapt around this onboard piece that threatens them so much? And then Jesse can maybe provide some extra context. Obviously, that kind of flies in the wind of getting down to the match and getting it underway. You might be in situations on the day where you have to buy a little bit more time, depending on the pace of, the players getting ready or whatever. This is something that we are constantly chasing. So it is not a given that you'll have X number of minutes to set up the match, so on and so forth. Sometimes that's pushed along by the pace of the day. Jesse says, is the video flickering for anyone else, or do I have to reset? I don't think it's not flickering for me.
That have been around for quite some time.
Let me know if you guys are having issues,
though.
To
play as Marionette, not so much Fi, as Fi's kind of risen through the ranks in the last couple of metas that we've experienced, looking like a Boots of Astral Sanctuary coming through on the side of Theo.
Yeah, as well as the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx and the Tiger Stripe Shukos. Just pretty standard equipment suite, I would think, for Fi in this matchup now. We do see Theo does also have Overcrowdeds, which is going to insulate it a little bit from those pesky codexes of frailty that lurk in the Marionette deck.
Okay, I need a little bit more why there, Jesse. And also, you've done something really nice that I asked you to do last week, which is plant the seed in your audience's mind. Give them things to look out for and go, oh, he talked about that, and I see it. He talked about it, and I see it. That makes a viewer feel good. And also, makes it so that we're doing our job, keeping people engaged. Now, one of the things that happened when Theo presented equipment is he didn't show you the piece that you talked about. He didn't show you Boots of Omnis Ward. Now, a lot of people that have an understanding of the game, Boots of Astral Sanctuary is kind of sort of the same thing, right? But I do think you need to mention that, not as a way of being like, I'm not actually wrong, but instead just to let the audience know that even though they didn't catch your Easter egg, there's still something similar, not too dissimilar going on there.
It looks like Vadim's also kind of insulating himself. I see a Shelter from the Storm in hand, and I do believe that Theo is going to be our player that will be going first. And Theo starting this match off with a counter on the Fiendel's Spring Tunic, followed by a Fire That Burns Within. This is coming in for...
There was a small technical hiccup there. Cobb mentioned to me that was going to happen. No stress at all. And we're off to the races with the play-by-play.
2 damage and to go again. And this is going to allow him to discard a Phoenix Flame to draw a card. This would get another 2 damage on it. But mostly I think he's looking to start out his game, get that Phoenix Flame onto the board. Jesse, in this situation, when you're playing as Fi, what are your first instincts when you are starting a game like this?
Okay, in terms of play-by-play itself, that was a little bit sloppy, Cara. You were kind of trying to catch what was going on while also, getting through it. I think you were too focused on the throw in that situation, because what we missed talking about was the fact that Theo activated Fi in response to Fire That Burns Within so that he could discard it to Fire That Burns Within so that he could draw a card, right? And technically that wasn't said, and because the Phoenix Flame is something that starts in the graveyard, that is something that could be missed by the viewer, especially if these guys don't represent their dice correctly. That could be something that inspires chat to be like, oh wait, why did a damage leak through? Something was missed, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
So my first instinct is I want to get the
what up, Chris Fab
C9C into my arsenal on this first turn. Most of this damage is going to be blocked out no matter what deck you play into, unless it's maybe something like a Cilio. But Marionette, for all the 2 blocks in the deck, does have a lot of defensive tools.
We are seeing some of those defensive tools hitting the board right now.
Nice.
Blocking that Fire That Burns Within with a Savor Bloodshed, and then putting out the Shelter from the Storm for the extra point of prevention there, as well as 2 remaining pieces of prevention. Now that would allow him to block with 1 card, maybe let another piece of damage float through and just not even matter. We see a Vadim looking at the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, maybe just trying to get a good handle on how big these turns can truly become. And it looks like we're about to see another card come across from Theo. That is a Blazed Headlong also coming in for 4.
Okay, little awkward, obviously. There was just a teeny bit too long of a pause for Jesse to be like, is this a throw to me or what? And so, Jesse, I would encourage you to hop on it immediately. One of the things we talked about last week was, as the color caster, use your brain like random access memory. Always have something to say the second that play-by-play stops talking. Now, I don't want you to be afraid of silence, obviously, but if you've got something in your brain, let it rip immediately once Cara takes a breath. And it's okay. It won't be rude. And in fact, had your words started flying out of your mouth right away, I don't think Cara would have continued play-by-play. She would have let you finish your thought, which would be the correct thing to do.
Vadim seems to be considering his blocks, putting out a Whittle from Bone and letting that Tunic counter, or not Tunic
Whittle from
counter,
Bone is an interesting thing to talk about.
Storm, tick down, and an Overcrowded hits the board.
Notably, this is an interaction that was missed here. The Tiger Stripe Shuko should be pumping this Overcrowded to 2, making the damage unpreventable, but I believe it's missed by both players out on the feature match area.
Yep, good shout there, Jesse.
A good catch, and because of...
So, Jesse, Yeah, missing points of value are good things to point out. We talked about trying to make our players look as good as possible. I think if you're going to do it right there, perhaps we could springboard into another interesting point, only because I saw one, right? The fact that Vadim blocked with Whittle from Bone, while it's like, yes, it's been coming in and out of Marionette list, this is an opportunity to talk about the Boots of Omnis Ward, in this case, the Boots of Astral Sanctuary effect, and what it is causing some Arachne Marionette players to do, like put in extra Graphene Calicera generation into the deck. Just because we're ending on like little slap on the wrist to the
Them
players,
not
I think
catching
I'd rather
our
us
direction,
continue
Lifetones are gonna
into some
remain
extra
right up at
analysis,
the
because there was
top
more stuff to
40
go there.
Playing 40. Looks like Vadim is talking about something getting flipped. I'm not sure exactly what, but seems to be drawing up a card that has kind of exactly what you want to see as Arachne, and possibly a way around the prevention aspect with this pain in the backside, which would allow the Hunter's Clave to come in and mark Theo.
Okay, Cara, thank you for the life total update at the end of that turn cycle. I think because they haven't changed, I would rather lump that into declaring a winner of the turn, right? Because it's turn 0, and because Theo decided to send some cards, and some pretty useful ones, mind you, I think he was hoping to chip in some damage. I mean, that's usually what Phis are trying to do if they send attacks on turn 0. So I think it best to... We talked last week a lot about declaring a winner of each turn cycle, continuing to provide the context, the plot points of our story as we proceed all the way to the end. So rather than a 40 plays 40 there, I would say, and not a single point of damage leaks through there. No need to re-qualify the fact that Tiger Stripe Shuko was missed, because of course Jesse already brought that up, and the topography of the match ultimately ends up being whatever the players see, right? This is an in-person game, so this is truth now. It's still 40 plays 40, and so we can talk about this being as not a single point leaks through. Things are coming up Vadim, at least for now.
Are 5 players. So this is 3 go again if he does choose to, kind of fake flick that Hunter's Clave. We could see Phi getting marked fairly early on. Jesse, what do you think about the rest of his hand?
I think the rest of his hand looks a little clunky.
So, Cara, this is the second or third throw of the third or fourth of the match, and you have pointedly asked a question each time. And what I mean by that is you've like literally used a question mark. So, Jesse, what do you think about X? While we constantly want to be asking questions of our color commentator, we also discussed how much it can wear on people if you're actually asking questions all the time. Other ways to phrase this would be like making a statement. So in this case, your point being, let me think of a good way to do this.
But the top 40 playing 40. Looks like Vadim is talking about something getting flipped. I'm not sure exactly what, but seems to be drawing up a card that has kind of exactly what you want to see as Arachne, and possibly a way around the prevention aspect with this pain in the backside, which would allow the Hunter's Clave to come in and mark Theo, our 5 player. So this is 3 go again if he does choose to, kind of fake flick that Hunter's Clave. We could see Phi getting marked fairly early on. Jesse, what?
Okay, cool. So your point right there, which you're kind of making with what you're saying in the play-by-play, is that this is a way that Vadim can get Theo marked without committing to flick knives right away. And because Phi is not known for wanting to block all that much, this might force blocks where Theo might otherwise just keep a full grip. Now, you can say something to the effect of, not going to need to commit flick knives if that thing connects. And then Jesse can kind of pick it up from there, where he can continue discussing the efficacy of Boots of Astral Sanctuary and maybe talk about the importance of preventing that first flick. Or are those boots actually there for something like a big Savor Bloodshed turn where Vadim could otherwise guarantee a card? Something like that. Or you could even say, Fi can be in situations where he wants to play mid-range, so maybe he'll lay a card down happily here because you don't want to be something like that. That's one way that you can throw to your co-caster without literally asking a question.
What do you think about the rest of his hand?
Don't want to discourage you from doing it
I think
sometimes,
the rest of
but
his hand looks a little clunky.
we're officially at
They're
too
all
many.
dagger buffs, so if this pay the backside gets blocked out by this Salt the Wound fully, he's not really in a great spot.
It looks like right now he's debating his pitch card, indeed, sending in a Hunter's Clave for 1, allowing that those 2 dagger buffs, like you said, to be playable. And I'm wondering if, like you had mentioned, the Fi is possibly going to just completely block out the mark that can occur here.
Flickdine's activation.
Wouldn't be surprised to see the boots get involved here, but Theo looks like he's choosing to accept the mark and hold the boots over the head of Vadim.
Okay, Cara, I think you were a little bit too timid about continuing the play-by-play there, but a Flick Knives activation happened, and we've been setting this up from the beginning. The exciting moments are play-by-play's role. So if you see that happening, it's okay if you have been talking what feels like too much. The play-by-play is generally going to take up the majority of the air on the broadcast. That goes for the interstitial moments, that goes for while we're actually playing, because it takes so many words to describe what is happening in a game of Flesh and Blood. That's okay. I don't want play-by-play to be dropping out there at a big moment. But Jesse, good pickup here.
Now that does allow for...
I do think you could have, rather than just reacting to, oh, Theo is taking that 1 damage, go immediately into the analysis. Tell me why he might be willing to take that first flick, even though he can prevent it.
For Vadim, I think he is indeed going to use the to the point. Both of them, both will be coming in for an additional 4 points of damage because Theo is in fact marked. And I'm noticing that Vadim is really liking to play some of these Japanese cards. You can see it with this mark token. You can see it with this Black Tech Whisperers. But this is 9 with Go Again. Although there are no more cards in the hand of Vadim.
This guy is so marked.
Yeah, I think this is a fine start for Vadim. You're getting damage across, you're keeping the mark, you're going to transform into one of those Agents of Chaos, and you're going to leave Fi with a 3-card hand that doesn't look super great. It is a Art of the Phoenix War and another Fire that burns within.
Yeah, yikes.
Yeah, and
Jesse, that's also an opportunity to call back to Theo not utilizing Boots of Astral Sanctuary. Vadim had him forked, and that might have been an instance where Vadim was hoping for the activation of the boots because he had the points to get over the blocks anyway.
especially I think right now, life goals after these first turns are 40, and the side of Arachne plays 32 on Fi. Looks like Vadim is considering going into Orb Weaver, which is my favorite demi hero from the Brood.
He's not considering it. He rolled it randomly. Okay. When something like that happens, we all know that Marionette's going for Orb Weaver. That's a big moment that he hits the 3 straight out of the gate. Big.
One of those Graphene Cheliceras so early in the game is very important to the game plan of Arachne, and I'm seeing quite a few attack reactions in the hand. Savor Bloodshed, Take Up the Mantle, one of those trap cards, which may not be quite the best, but what are you thinking the Fi is going to do with this turn?
I think
Wait, Savor Bloodshed, Take Up the Mantle, one of those trap cards? Hold on.
Savor Bloodshed, Take Up the Mantle, one of those trap cards, which may not be.
Oh, I
quite
see.
the best,
Comma,
but
one of
what are
those
you
trap
thinking the Fi
cards.
is gonna
Okay,
do
got
with
it.
this turn?
I think he just wants to clear his arsenal and really get that
Yeah, Cara, that was question number 4.
War Phoenix set up for the following turn.
Let's find other ways to incorporate
Vadim's
questions
really
for our
not
co-caster.
priced into blocking this attack here, as most of his hand is both playable and very powerful. We do see a Savor Bloodshed, a Take Up the Mantle, Codex of Frailty, and an Under the Trapdoor. Already turning into that Orb Weaver Spinneret, he's probably most likely going to discard the least valuable card in his hand to make a Chalissa,
Nice.
and then really put pressure on Theo's life total.
Good, Jesse.
And we are seeing an Inflame the Firebrand coming to the board from Theo. Unfortunately, not on one of those later chain links, so it is just going to remain a 2 damage card, which Vadim happily blocks with a Codex of Frailty. Now, with the other two cards in hand, it looks like Theo is considering possibly arsenaling and
Okay. That was an opportunity to throw to Jesse without using a question. Make a big deal about him blocking with a Codex of Frailty. This is the power card. This is the reason that Theo put in tech cards like Overcrowded, right? Why is he blocking with a Codex of Frailty? And then Jesse can be like, there's no attacks in his graveyard, 1, and 2, Theo's already got himself an Overcrowded in his. So it's 100% just counterable, basically, by Theo, and doesn't actually get Vadim any real value besides replacing itself with a Ponder token. That's something that's good to mention. And also, it gets the audience immediately thinking about, okay, Codex number 1 is gone.
passing this turn. Unsure if that would be the smartest decision, but what do you think, Jesse?
Question number 5.
I think that he doesn't really have much of a choice because he wants to set up the Art of the Phoenix War, and the Firebrand did not have go again.
Oh, right. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, it was only on Chainlink 1. Then we return to Vadim's turn, who put another counter on the Tunic and already seems to be activating Orb Weaver to get that Graphene Chelicera in hand. That is something for Mario that is going to be so important.
Graphene Chelicera is in the proverbial hand. Okay, I'm with you on that. Could get a little confusing because we're constantly talking about stuff in hand. Don't want you to get flamed because you said the Graphene Chelicera goes to the hand.
Because it has that stealth text. Now sending out a Savor Bloodshed, and as Theo is already marked, it is not a bad situation to be in because you are likely going to be drawing a card off of this.
Yeah, coming in for 8 against a 5, where traditionally a lot of their cards block 2, it's going to be a really hard ask for Theo to be able to full block this to deny the draw. And even if Theo does commit cards to blocking all of this, then the Flick Knives is going to pressure your boots.
There we
It's
go.
going to buy a lot of value on the table.
I think the throw was like a little bit slow there. You were in another situation where Cara might be in the hot seat going, did he catch it? And you might run headlong into one another when dead air is sent. So I would prefer you to jump on that a little bit more, Jesse, but otherwise what you said was good.
Now, did we see what the last card in Vadim's hand is? Is it something that can buff this to an even higher damage number coming across? Because as it already has that go again, this could be another very large turn from Vadim.
It is under the trapdoor, so most likely
That's right.
just going to get converted into a Hunter's Clave.
All right. Well, it looks like Theo is debating whether or not he's just going to tank all of this damage.
Jesse, you had an opportunity to continue there. I think anytime you are being thrown to, especially if it is direct, you can talk about like other things that you saw from Vadim. For example, my mind immediately goes to, well, if we blocked with the Codex there and all our plan was for the under the trap door, a layman might consider, holding back that Codex and saving it for the arsenal, because I mean, he's clearly not arsenaling under the trap door. He didn't necessarily need a blue to put this turn together because Arachne Orb Weaver does discount the Graphene Chelicera swing. I think because, I mean, in my ideal world, we would have made a little bit more of a deal about Codex being blocked with immediately, just so we could educate our audience about, well, it's a great card, but not when you don't have any attacks in the graveyard. In which case, we could go back to that decision and kind of analyze, not necessarily whether it was good or bad, just talk about what the players could be thinking about it. So I would encourage you, if a question is asked, like, what was that last card in hand? You don't have to just answer that question and throw it right back. You can use it as a springboard point.
And that's always something that, indeed he is. You see him put his cards down for a moment and then just say, all right, fine, I think I can maybe deal with this. Life total is currently sitting at 40-24 from Vadim playing.
There we go.
Theo.
We got some folks trickling in. How's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for joining us.
Was Stains of the Redback was drawn off of the Savor Bloodshed. Now coming in with that Hunter's Clave 4-1. However, we know that it can possibly get pitched up a little bit more than that.
Stains of the Redback's most likely destined for the Arsenal, but what I think we're going to see is I think we're going to.
And had we made that point about the Codex one more time, we could have talked about, oh, well, Vadim has to protect for the potential eventuality that he draws off of Savor Bloodshed, and it's a card that he can't convert on this turn, which is exactly what happened. But it does beg the question, of course, couldn't he have pitched the Codex and... I guess he didn't save a point of value because Inflame the Firebrand was only coming in for 2. But yeah, I'm beleaguering this point a lot. I'm just saying there is so much in the analyst seat that you can go into. Don't hesitate to leap for it.
See Theo take the damage, use one of the extra blues in his hand to buy back the Phoenix Flame on his turn, and then use the other blue to, on his turn, pitch into the Art of Phoenix War, discarding the Phoenix Flame that he picked up during Vadim's turn, and then attempt to have a really massive attack.
Cool. There's a way to condense that a little bit, I think, Jesse, by mainly just saying Phi's ability is a once per turn instant, can be utilized on Vadim's turn and also Theo's, which unlocks these multiple uses of these Phoenix discarding effects, something like that.
The room very much correctly. We are ending that turn. Life totals 40, plays 23. Phi is currently marked by Arachne Marionette. We see a Persuasive Prognosis. We see a beautiful looking Command and Conquer in the hand of Vadim as well.
Cara, I don't think we should be going over the hand of Vadim quite yet. We'll get there, right? But because he is drawing up and Theo is on the affirmative, I want to be focusing on what Theo's about to do to him. Even though Jesse's just kind of picked it up a little bit. Jesse says, yeah, that is better than whatever word soup I just... Dude, it'll come with time. I still get lost in the word soup. The purpose of these reviews is, of course, to repaint the picture in the most idealized form. So that is what's in the back of our minds when we get in the hot seat again. It is never in my life have I painted a Bob Ross canvas right there at the desk. If I were looking at my own game, the best game I feel like I've ever casted, I would be looking for these idealized situations as well. So all that to say, the purpose of these VOD reviews is to find the ways that we could have made perfection, and by doing so, having that as our template, we get ever closer to it when we do it live.
As that Stains of the Redback in Arsenal. Ticking up the tunic counter to 3 is Theo.
None of these notes are meant to be punitive.
Looks like he has another fire that burns within in his
trying
hand.
to convey.
Now, I wasn't able to see all the rest of his cards, but this is looking like a fairly decent follow-up turn for Vadim if he plans to maybe just tank the damage.
The thing Vadim really has to worry about here is if this is going to be the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx turn. Typically, when Pouncing Lynx gets activated, it's anywhere from 5 to 7 points of offensive value.
All right. Well, that is definitely something you don't want to be going against.
That's one of those empty calorie responses, Cara. Instead, we can go immediately into Art of the Phoenix War, played essentially for free because of the resource generated by the 3 energy counters on Fiendel's Spring Tunic. The top of the deck needs to cooperate for Theo right now. This could be a turn of upwards of 45 damage, something like that.
When do you think that Vadim's life total...
Cards drawn. We need to be talking about the cards drawn. Phoenix Flame hit, Hunt to the Ends of Wraith hit.
Very, very constructive.
Yeah, this is not a moment where I want to be asking questions. Instead, I want to keep the viewer updated as to what are the hits on Art of the Phoenix War.
Thing.
And that is the purview of play-by-play.
It's really dependent on what Phi draws. I've seen...
And it actually serves... It serves the casting duo... I'm sorry. It serves the audience, first and foremost, right? Letting them constantly create a mental picture of the board state in their head. The play-by-play caster... Like I said last week, should be casting to the person who is listening to the game, not the one that is actively watching the game. The it also serves the casting duo, because as you're mentioning the cards that are drawn off of the top of the deck right there, your analyst can be concocting the turn in their head. And so the second that you stop talking, Cara, right after we spot those 2 cards drawn off of the top, Jesse can launch into, okay, while a Phoenix Flame is drawn off the top, it's not curtains for Theo, because this facilitates X, Y, and Z. Maybe means that he doesn't have to activate Phi as early as he thought he would for Fire That Burns Within. Maybe that means an Ember Blade gets to sneak in rather than an overpitch to Phi, something to that effect. Either that, or Jesse says, yeah, with the rest of his hand, Phoenix Flame is dog.
Damage up to 46 come out off of a Art of Phoenix, Art of the War Phoenix.
But instead, Jesse is making the point that play-by-play very easily could have used to smooth that tiny bit of space between Art of Phoenix War being played and the cards being drawn, which could have, kept us in that driver's seat, kept the moment exciting, and also given Jesse more opportunity to focus on other things. Click, damn you.
And Mask of Pouncing Link's interaction. So it really is just dependent on what Theo draws here. It could be 46, it could be 25. It really just depends on sequencing and how deep into the deck Theo is able to go.
And it does kind of remind me of when Kano could just kind of one-shot you with one turn. But you are right, we see that Art of the Phoenix War hitting the table, quickly followed by the Fire That Burns Within. And Theo is still sitting with 3 cards in hand, ready to do his dirty work and maybe...
Fun parallel to Kano, and very seamless transition back into play-by-play. Thanks, Cara.
Bring these life totals back a little bit.
That was an example of a way where you can, smell what Jesse's stepping in verbally without saying, that sounds like a fearsome proposition, comma, now this is what's going on. Do you see the difference there? You took the point that he made and created one of your own as your transition back to play-by-play, rather than this jarring halt with verbal garbage in a restart. Reminds me of the cars that when you come up to a stop sign, they turn their whole engine off and then have to turn it back on and go. And while that may be an eco-friendly thing to do, it is disconcerting if you've never experienced it before.
Closer, Vadim turning over the Art of the Phoenix War and taking a quick peek at it.
Yeah, I think the cards that Theo drew are not exactly what he's looking for here. We do see a Hunt to the Ends of Wraith, which is really good in any of the Arachne matchups. But I think he was looking for just a little more power out of those draws. We saw one of the draws off the Art of the Phoenix War be another Phoenix Flame. So I think he was just looking for a little more action.
We see Vadim possibly, moving his hand over.
So yeah, I think this moment is the one that could have come a little bit earlier if Jesse had the processing power to be looking at the cards drawn by Theo, maybe even spurred on by play-by-play caster narrating him for him. And I do think it would have packed a better punch ultimately if Jesse didn't have to do those mental gymnastics, or was able to do those mental gymnastics a lot earlier.
Over to the Mask of Deceit, possibly considering using that this turn because Theo is marked, which would allow him to actually choose which member of the brood he is going to become, possibly allowing for, those chosen on hits to really be his own, of his own making. And we do see that Mask of Deceit coming in. Now let's see, he is choosing Trapdoor, which I believe is very astute.
Yeah, this makes sense. He's going to go get one of the either Go Again or Plus Power traps that Arachne Marionette has available, and put this in front, cover up this 5 cleanly on the mask block, and be able to hold all 4 cards for further defense if needed. One of the signposts for any cards like Art of Phoenix War is, back in the Art of War meta, is generally accepted that anytime you have this big Anthem effect on the board, you just try to take as little damage as possible, go next, because you force the Art of War player to have to do it again.
I was just going to say,
Nice.
It's kind of like
Very nice,
objective
Jesse.
survive.
Exactly.
All right, and that is a frailty trap that he is pulling out, giving a frailty to.
So Cara, right there, you admirably tried to do another one of those things that I lauded you for a moment ago, which is to find a colorful and seamless transition back into play-by-play. I don't think you need to hold for a response from Jesse if that is the way you're going to do it. You could even be doing something, I don't know, like you said Survivor, so I'm immediately thinking TV show Survivor. And you could go, we'll see if Vadim has the defenses to stay alive or if he's going to get voted off the island. Now back to the game, without actually saying now back to the game, just back to the next action that happens. Something like that.
Theo. I'm wondering how many traps he is playing, because I know that as a Arachne player myself, I usually only play 1 or 2 specific traps. I usually stick with inertia trap myself, and here comes a hunt to the ends of Wraith from Theo.
Yeah.
Opportunity, well,
Notably going to mark the Arachne player. Now, Fi doesn't get a whole lot of value out of marking the opponent, so it's just kind of like a funny no, now you. But this is going to come in for 6 because of the Tiger Stripe Shuko, the Art of Phoenix War, and the +2 buff from the card's effect itself.
Indeed, and this is some.
So Jesse, I think there's more you can do from the analyst seat, because the majority of that was play-by-play, and that's not a bad thing. Of course, we talked about blurring the lines, but remember your role. Hunt to the Ends of Wraith is perhaps in this matchup because there's a marionette, but there are also reasons that Fi run this card besides the Arachnes that they might see along their way. One of the things that makes Fi suddenly so potent at the advent of Compendium of Wraith is the number of reasonable 2 base power attacks to run, which means that all of a sudden, it's not like Fi's of old. They're triggering Tiger Stripe Shuko almost every single turn, just adding more fuel to the flames and making it so that Fi can overcome.
I'm loving all of these personalized tokens, but coming in, blocking with.
And you don't have to use that exact point, of course, but what I want to do is get your gears thinking about ways to turn a moment that fell back on play-by-play and instead turn it into an analytical moment.
The Black Tech Whisperers that see and see from hand, and I did not see the other card that he blocked with, but doing, I think, a fairly good job remaining extremely high with his life total, maybe higher than Theo would like, as he is now sending a Searing Ember Blade.
For how much? Oh, 3. Wait a minute. I thought Art of the Phoenix War was action cards.
War only buffs attack action, so this frailty is going to make this Searing Ember Blade 2 power, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
I believe you're right, and that is false.
And that was something that, Cara, you should have at least taken a guess at right there. I do want the number that the Searing Ember Blade is coming in for. That is one of those who, what, where, when pieces of play-by-play. That is a significant part of the what. The active chain link is for how much power.
Followed by a Blaze Headlong, which will be coming in for 4. Vadim deeming not to block on that Searing Ember Blade, going down to 38, and not blocking either on the Blaze Headlong, which is bringing him down to 33. And now we see a Phoenix Flame hitting the table as well.
Okay. So, 2 mentions of the life total makes me want to find a more colorful way to do the play-by-play there, which might be something like, and we've come to the point in the turn where a stalwart defense is discarded for a lot of bloodletting. Vadim, taking not just the Searing Ember Blade, but also the Blaze Headlong to follow, now finds himself all the way down to 33, facing down the Phoenix Flame. Guess he's taking that one too.
Phoenix Flame going to be coming in for 2, not having access to spray.
Which is another way to throw to your color caster, because you are actively reacting to the fact that, hey, there are still cards in hand, there's still defenses up. Jesse, we just talked about how when you see an Anthem effect, you go completely shields up and pass, go next. Why all of a sudden is Vadim willing to take all of this damage? And you say all of that big word soup that I just boiled up for you, just by reacting to the fact that all of a sudden Vadim is not blocking. It gives Jesse a springboard point to then go, okay, I see you're kind of freaked out that he's not blocking anymore. Let's start talking about maybe why that is.
Spreading flames on this turn is a lot of potential loss damage, and I don't think this is where you want to go get the pouncing links. I think you can hold on to this and maybe squeak a little more value later. And then Theo's just going to send the last card in hand.
All right, and that last card in hand is looking like an Inflame the Firebrand, which is only coming in for 2. So maybe Vadim breathing a sigh of relief that this is not the bigger turn that he thought it could become. Theo tapping his fingers, maybe debating what he could do, if anything. And here we do see him considering the Master of the Pouncing Links and sending that. Now, what do you think he's going to be looking for, Jesse?
So we've obviously way overused actual questions at this point. I've made my feelings on that very clear, Cara. I think this is one of the places where it's actually warranted. And on Saturday, you will have a producer running your hand in player cams. I don't think we have the technology to actually put that power in your hands. This is probably an instance where your producer is going to cut to that hand cam so you can see the cards flickering through Theo's deck and will aid you guys in spotting any interesting targets for Mask of the Pouncing Links.
I think at this point it's probably going to be a tenacity with how many cards have been committed to blocking, because the Inflame the Firebrand is going to give +1. Oh, decides to get Salt the Wound instead. Is going to give +1 to the follow-up card, because now all the chain links are draconic, and Art of Phoenix Force says draconic attack actions. So Engulf came in for, I believe, 5 because of all the buffs, and then Salt the Wound is going to come in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional.
So this is another instance where you can help your co-caster out, Cara, by making sure that you are declaring the amount of power on each of these chain links. That is a half a second that Jesse wouldn't have had to consider it right there. One less bit of math he'd have to do in order to get to the reason why Theo is choosing Salt the Wound and the extra benefit that fealty token is going to, the Inflame the Firebrand is going to add to this turn.
Points of value on top of the base 2, so an 8 chain ender.
That is a great...
Jesse says, what I should have talked about here was the potential to block out pouncing links. Yeah, that's a really good shout there, Jesse. That's an entirely reasonable thing to talk about, and also perhaps something that we could have considered from Theo's point of view as well. I don't know. He's going to send that Inflame almost no matter what. You don't want to lose out on the Anthem effect. So yeah, that's a possibility, and I think that point would have been more top of mind had we done the whole throw at the opportunity or at the moment where Vadim decided to start saying no more blocks, right? Because one of the things you could have likely would have talked about at that point is, well, there are a lot of 2 blocks in the Marionette deck, and so maybe the defensive value just isn't there because of the risk of not popping it on the Phoenix Flame, and Vadim might have just shoved at that point, in which case, yeah, that leaves us a lot of stuff to talk about. Like maybe you're right, maybe Theo wasn't planning on popping Mask this turn, but all of a sudden, if Vadim's just gonna take all this damage, I guess I gotta make it hurt as much as possible, right? Another instance where you can get yourself into the player's seat. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to when you get that throw, use it as an opportunity, because there is always something to talk about. Literally always. This game is so deep.
Great way to end the chain when he looked like he was maybe considering not using
There's
that
always
mask
something to talk about
turn.
that isn't just
that now brings
helping
our
out
life
play by play.
totals to 19 on the side of Mario, as well as 23 on the side of Fi. Mario, Arachne Marionettes entering this turn still has Trapdoor still marked with 2 cards in hand and 1 card in arsenal.
Nice, Cara. That was the first time I heard you do that as the play-by-play, where you talk about the number of cards, like the amount of gas left in the tank for Vadim after taking the brunt of that turn.
Oh no, handing back that mark token because indeed he got hit quite a few times and quite large with that Salt the Wound.
I do like that Theo looked at the mark token as if he didn't hand it to him, as he noticed the little man on the mark token for the first time.
Who could this be? Maybe his name is Mark. All right, and Vadim
Cute.
coming in with a persuasive prognosis for 1.
That was probably, Cara, I feel like that was like the loosest I've heard you on this cast so far. And that was really nice. I would like for us to strive to get you comfortable enough to provide that affect from the beginning and all the way through the cast. I think in general, what I would say about your, I don't know, your general vibe is like a little bit too uptight. And I think that is just something that will change when in reps, but I want you to use that little quippy moment as your model for the way you can approach this from the get-go.
We'll see. I feel like this is one of those cards that never actually comes in for 1.
Most assuredly not. But even if it is 1, you're still asking for at least 1 card's worth of value. And I don't think Theo really wants to block, because this hand looks pretty good from what I can tell. You have a Rise from the Ashes and Ignite. It's going to lead to a really efficient turn.
But Jesse, if this persuasive prognosis hits, he is 100% guaranteed, I would say, to give a card, because I think I see blues and I see reds. The chances of hitting the yellow off the top means that his best card is one of his best cards is likely going away. So the turn either way is not going to look the way that Theo wants it unless he deals with this persuasive prognosis.
Indeed, and looks like Vadim is sitting patiently. I see him twiddling his thumbs a little bit, maybe hoping that he's able to go a little bit.
Also, Cara, really fantastic throw. You did another throw without actively asking a question. I feel like persuasive prognosis is a card that just never quite comes in for 1. That was an excellent way to do that. And Jesse, while it was a little slow perhaps on the pickup of the throw, got it. He got the message that you were sending.
Further with this
without the use of a question mark is my point.
Persuasive prognosis. Now, Tunic counter is on 3. That does give him the opportunity
Oh,
to
good, Jesse. Brain breaks sometime.
swing the Chelicera afterwards, but I'm not sure if what he has in hand. I knew a little while ago he had to take up the mantle.
Is that a
I'm not
nasty
sure if that is
surprise?
still in the hand for him.
The F, David Blaine?
Well, we're
So
going to
the
see
red
both
back
stains of the
coming
red
through
back.
instead. Indeed.
Yep.
Double stains.
Team happily putting down 7 with go again.
Curious. So my brain immediately, Jesse, is going back to Vadim not saving 3 points of life on the big anthem turn. I think this is a moment where the analyst needs to step in and kind of pull us back into the past. We were talking about, well, we didn't end up talking about it, but in the ideal world where we did talk about, hey, wait a minute, Vadim just stopped blocking, even though we said that this was the moment to save life, is really is just 3 extra points worth more on offense here than it would have been on defense. To which you can then start talking about, well, these Phis are known to run defense reactions into Marion, blah, blah, blah. So maybe 4 doesn't actually get over, and Vadim really wanted some disruption on this turn. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, this game very quickly devolving into a battle of I punch you for 7, you punch me for 7, waiting to see who comes out on top.
Phoenix Flame?
Well, and I'm wondering if it's eventually going to turn into kind of a stop hitting yourself sort of game at this point. We
Cute.
still see that Tunic counter now. Vadim.
You guys
is
are
able
developing
to
chemistry. This is
choose
so fun
from
to
the
watch.
hand what he would like to remove. We see an Ignite, as you said, a Rise from the Ashes. And what is that third card in hand, Jesse?
Oh, that is a Flame Call Awakening. So Vadim astutely noting that Ignite is one of the best cards in the hand, but it looks like you might be taking the Rise from the Ashes. I don't know if I like that pick, just because you already hit a Phoenix Flame off the Persuasive Prognosis trigger. That means all the Flame Call Awakenings in the deck are now dead. They cannot tutor Phoenix Flames unless
Nice.
Theo finds a way to pitch them back into the deck. I don't really like taking Ignite here.
Interesting.
What?
All right, and it looks like it is that Flame Call Awakening that is getting sent into the banished zone. Both other cards returning to Theo's hand. Now, This
Interesting.
had go again. I'm wondering if he is going to pop that tunic. Nope, it seems like he is just going to end his turn, send it right on back to Theo, who now...
Good restraint from you both, because Jesse made it clear that he didn't like the pick of the Flame Call Awakening. Vadim took that route. We didn't mention it again. No need to like go back and harp on it. Or honestly, this is a situation where I wouldn't even go back and go like, well, maybe he was thinking blah 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 blah. Like Jesse's already kind of laid out the reasoning for the pick, and you know, if you really felt compelled to go back to it, it's like maybe you didn't like really register that it was a Phoenix Flame banished. That's why it's always important to double check the graveyard of your opponent, especially when they're displaying it so nicely, like Theo, blah 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 blah. Use it as like a teaching moment.
now has those 2 cards in hand and seems to be thinking of what he is doing. He's putting that counter on the Fiendel's Spring Tunic. Now, with these 2 cards, Jesse, what is the approach that you think?
Kara, this is the 3rd time that you've mentioned somebody putting a counter on Fiendel's Spring Tunic. Probably too much. I can see it becoming one of your, I don't know what to say right now, so I'm going to go to the Tunic, because that's actively what I see happening right now.
I think you would do.
I think I'm wanting to save this Rise from the Ashes, to be honest. I don't think that you're going to get a ton of value from playing this out here. It's going to be the Rise from the Ashes into Ignite for 5, into a Phoenix Flame for 2. Like, sure, it is a 2-card 7, but I think you need to go a little bigger because you are currently behind on tempo in this scenario.
And this Ignite coming to the table, that is going to be coming in for 2. Vadim looking like he's... I'm wondering if he should be blocking here, unless his hand is really not necessarily playable, because life totals currently are 21 plays 19. If he's able to keep a full hand and then just slam right back against Theo, he may be able to put him on the back foot.
Ooh, but now we see that's one of, I think, 3 total blues from Vadim's hand. He only really needs 1 in order to send Hunter's Clave, Graphene Clyster. There's a mosquito. Get out of here, bro. Bloodsucker. Sorry, I'm at a constant war with mosquitoes. What was I talking about? So I feel like we are seeing the answer in Vadim's block, and so that's an opportunity either to throw to the color caster or even just take a stab at it yourself there, Cara, which you kind of did. You kind of said, I feel like it's odd that Vadim is blocking here given the way life totals are and the way he has ripped tempo away from Theo. So yeah, good all around. I think the upshot of my note is I would encourage you to use all available information, including that block, and also be staring at the hand while you're kind of wondering what Vadim is doing, because the answers are there on the board. I can see them.
Insulating himself against those Boots of Astral Sanctuary. He does not want to take a line where if those boots get popped, you essentially get time locked. He does have Command and Conquer in the hand. Opponent's setting an Arsenal. I think he's more than fine sending this Command and Conquer and then sending the Meat Madness to the Arsenal.
And initially sending that Hunter's Clave for 1 with go again. 1 resource.
Thank you, a little tell from Vadim.
And 2
puts 2 resources there. He knows he's going to use them.
On the Fiendel's Spring Tunic.
Yeah, an interesting decision point for Theo. If this mark does hit, that allows Vadim to actually convert the full hand now that he is on his 3rd Tunic counter.
I've been harping at Jesse for slow pickups on the throws. I think that one was reasonable. It was okay to leave a little bit of extra space there because nothing was actively happening on the play-by-play. You can tell that the moments are getting tenser and tenser. The stakes are getting higher because the life totals are getting lower. And sometimes it's really nice to leave just a little bit of space or even bring the volume down to bring an extra bit of intensity to a moment.
Of course, Theo doesn't know this, but it is going to shape up to be a really
Jesse,
potentially disruptive turn if that Madness comes in, hits, does not hit the Arsenal, and then is followed up by a CNC.
Friend of the show, Pancake Jake. I'm not going to say what you said. I'm excited to see you too, even if you're a schmuck. Arena Poner 361. Bryce, I'm curious when you think a caster should or should not give their personal opinion about a player's choice. Like when you do say you don't like a player doing something. I think it is always for the benefit of the broadcast, and I think 9 times out of 10, what you should say is, I like that play. You should try to make the points at which you like somebody's play a lot more frequent than when you don't like their play. I think it's really a frequency thing. Every now and then you can go for the negative, or one of the ways I really like to phrase it is, I'm worried. I'm worried for them. I'm rooting for, like, the stance I usually take in the booth is I'm rooting for both players. Usually I think it will, like, if you watch any of my games, it'll come across like I am rooting for whoever is under, whoever's behind in the game, because really the main thing that I'm rooting for as a caster, truthfully, is an amazing game of Flesh and Blood. And the more push and pull there is, the better game I typically feel that we get. And so when I don't like somebody's play, oftentimes what I will emote is, oh, I'm worried about this because of X, you know? So it conveys the same thing, that it's a subpar play, but instead of putting a negative spin on it, like trying to chide the player that for making a bad decision, you're instead providing concern for them. It's almost like I'm watching somebody at an armory who I want to see improve. That kind of thing.
Site always
Hope
does
that answers
seem
that.
to be
Love you too, Jake.
20 in games of Flesh and Blood. Vadim thinking about sending out the Graphene Chelicera, and is going to do so now that the hero is marked. This is coming in for 2 with
Curious.
again. When do you think Theo should start blocking on this turn?
I think this is pretty obvious that there is some sort of follow-up after the Chelicera. The Chelicera is just going to be vanilla damage. If you're going to block, it's almost assuredly going to be on the next thing, but you want to get this mark off of you so that other potentially disruptive on hits that aren't CNC potentially didn't have text.
Indeed. So that CNC is now coming in for 6. Theo looking at the Flamecall Awakening in his arsenal, maybe debating whether or not it's time.
I was kind of interested to see Vadim not play for an arsenal there, especially one that is fairly clean, like Command and Conquer or Meat Madness. I feel like I want to talk about that, Jesse.
Time to let it go, but it seems he really does want to keep it. Sending in his Boots of Astral Sanctuary.
Oh.
But all of this is totally fine. Everything you guys did there is totally good. That was a subjective opinion of mine.
Oh,
This is going to be bad.
Oh, why is it going to be bad? Does Jesse give us the context?
Because, so if Theo does take this line and the Flick Knives are committed after the Boots resolve, the damage prevention is going to get eaten. You're going to lose your Boots and you're going to lose your Arsenal.
All right. Yeah, no, and that, I think Vadim is kind of counting on that. Look at him. He's smiling. He's looking through what he has in the graveyard.
No. Yes, Jesse. You've talked about... Yeah, I guess because he's already laid cards sideways, he's already in blocks. Yeah, that was a good shout, dude. That was a very good shout.
Right now, Theo really measuring out. Both of these players are in the 3rd round, 3-0, trying to make it and keep that pristine 4-0 record. However, Theo is going to put both the Tiger Stripe Shuko and Fiandel's Spring Tunic in front of this CNC, as well as a card from hand. Vadim happy with that. He is passing right on back to Theo, whose life total is now 16 to Arachne's 21.
Immediately, Jesse, I want to know how this affected the Fi's turn. I can see a Lava Burst in hand. I see a blue. I forget the last card. But he gave up a Phoenix Bannerman head. How much does he actually need that Phoenix, the Phoenix Bannerman head, when he has no more Phoenix Flames left in the deck? Like, sure, the Ponder token is something, but we're getting down to the point in the game where you're not going to be able to protect much for an arsenal anyway, and saving that Rise from the Ashes seems to be way more important at this point. So something like that. Like, I want to be immediately on this Fi's turn the second Cara stops talking, and I think she stopped talking at a reasonable moment because there's no more cardboard flying.
Yeah, we are going to see a pretty good turn out of Theo here. He does have the blue for
Nice.
the Spreading Flames and the Rise from the Ashes in Arsenal, so I'd expect to see the Rise from the Ashes come out, pick up the Phoenix Flame, go immediately into the spreading flames and continue from there. Going to end on this lava burst. But notably, no Shuko, so not going to get that +1.
Hell yeah, dude. That was clean.
And now he does seem to be continuing his turn on with
Oh my god, it's almost 10 already.
spreading flames, which will be coming in for 3.
I gotta get this sucker cooking.
It's going to come in for 6 because of the rise from the ashes.
6. I was buffering again.
Oh, that's fun.
Now, in the hand of Vadim, it looks like we have a... actually, not a bad card for here. We have a Leave No Witnesses, we have a Shelter from the Storm, we have a Codex of Frailty, and then a Kiss of Death. Now, I like being able to send that Kiss of Death and then flick it later on in the turn. Never mind. He is blocking with both the Kiss of Death and with the Leave No Witnesses. But this is now followed up with a Phoenix Flame coming onto the table.
Yeah, this is coming in for 2. We do see Vadim gesture to take the damage, followed by the Searing Ember Blade. I think Vadim recognizes that this hand is not worth taking a bunch of damage. It gives him access to a 1-card Codex play. He can just kind of keep the tempo advantage that he's spent most of the game accruing by playing the way that he's been playing.
And Theo getting yet another Phoenix Flame out of the graveyard by using that Phi activation. And then finally
I would just put a capstone on that point, Jesse, and say something, well, we do have to remember that overcrowded. So Codex of Frailty into Leave No Witnesses is not really that scary when Theo's already established and overcrowded. I think that was an opportunity for a little extra analysis. Maybe that's one of those situations where you can go, I am worried about a 1-card Codex play when Theo, first turn of the game, played an overcrowded.
doing
Something
what Phi
like
does
that.
best and sending a lava burst.
And maybe
at the
it
end
just
of
slipped our mind, but
chains.
that could have very well been something that if we harped on the Codex at the beginning of the game, could have been a very big moment for us and the audience with the Easter egg that we left them had we talked about it, right?
Vadim has 1 card in hand that he can continue to use for this turn.
Also, Vadim lost
Wondering
1
if
point of
he's planning
value
on maybe
on
just
that Shelter
arsenaling
from
it,
the Storm
hoping to
because he
set
didn't
up for
save
a
it
bigger
for a
turn.
lava
He did take
burst.
quite a lot of damage that last turn. Life total is currently 11, plays 16. But does remember to put a counter on that Fiendel's Spring Tunic. He is playing out that Codex of Frailty and putting a Leave No Witnesses into his arsenal.
Okay, cool.
Theo himself looking for a card. And it seems like it will be an overcrowded, which is an interesting choice here. Jesse, would you care to talk on that?
Interesting choice. I think that implies, Cara, that you're surprised to see this. I don't think you are. I think that was just incorrect word choice or something like that. But nice of you to throw to the color caster. I don't think it's quite necessary because it is still under the purview of play-by-play to understand the intricacies of the card, like how much overcrowded is going to be blocking for, how much Leave No Witnesses is going to be attacking for. So I think not correct, but the throw that I would make there is an overcrowded selected by Theo. If we haven't talked about it up until this point, I would make a really big deal out of this. And the overcrowded that Theo attacked with on that inane turn 0 is now going to come straight into the arsenal and get in the face for exact blocks on this Leave No Witnesses that was supposed to threaten whatever was placed there. Something like that. And then Jesse jumps in and talks about the content. What does this mean for the overall game? How ahead is Theo now? Because to me, it feels like significantly so.
Well, I think
when that was not the case,
actually forgot that Theo had attacked him with the overcrowded in the beginning, because if he had known, the Leave No Witness isn't necessarily that attractive of a target because it's just going to be an overcrowded that's going to come in and full block out on 1 card. Because it does have that ambush text, and there will be 2 tokens generated off this Codex of Frailty.
Interesting. That is right. I completely forgot about the 2. I was looking at the board saying, well, there's no tokens in play, but it's almost like when you're trying to...
Oh. Sorry, Cara. Apparently you didn't. You didn't know the broader context. So that's something we can work on, obviously.
to act as Vincent and summon Nazareth, it doesn't matter if the rune chants are about to pop, they're still on the board at that time. So it looks like that is the case. You could actually see Vadim kind of realize that as he's shaking his head, sending out that leave no witnesses, and Theo just saying, I raise you my own blocks, kind of laughing a little bit as he does so.
This is one of those instances, Arena Opponent 361, where I would use this as a teaching moment. Vadim even feels like he made an oopsie daisy based on what I'm seeing in the player cam. And so I can say like, oh, Vadim, it's so difficult to remember those early overcrowdeds, especially when Theo attacked with it rather than defended with it. Just goes to show it pays to check your opponent's graveyard from time to time. A mistake that Vadim likely will never make again. Something like that. Notice how I'm not chiding. I'm mourning for the player on screen.
Ponder for Vadim, which we will not see what card that is, and the frailty going to the side of Theo, who no longer has any card in Arsenal to have to worry about, but it could affect that Searing Ember Blade.
Whoa, that is a lot of blues.
Theo looking like he's drawn another blue heavy hand here. He did ask Vadim to stop before the ponder trigger because that is the last time Theo's going to have priority. Might be looking to get back another one of these Phoenix Flames, but I do see a Rowdy Locals in hand.
Oh, come on, Jesse. Keep going on Rowdy Locals.
What does the Rowdy Locals necessarily mean for Vadim?
Yeah, Cara should not have had to prompt you there, Jesse. That's a big card in Fi. Huge interaction that, like, I don't blame Cara for not knowing. That's one of those insider Fi things. So if you're talking about it, I think you need to understand that is like an obscure thing that people... It's like a getcha card, right? And so not every audience member is going to know why it's significant and why this might save an all blue hand. So give me that.
If Theo is able to get this out.
So Rowdy Locals is one of the few pieces of disruption that Fi has access to, because anytime you have an extra Phoenix Flame in your hand, you can discard it to the effect and force the opponent, if they've taken the hit, to also discard a card.
I'm really enjoying Disruption, though, because at least when I was playing Syndra, that's not something I was able to do often. And Fi was a hero that was around, long before I started playing in the kind of heavy hitters meta when I started the game. But he's looking through the graveyard of a
I want to listen to that one more time.
Right now.
Locals is one of the few pieces of disruption that Fi has access to, because anytime you have an extra Phoenix Flame in your hand, you can discard it to the effect and force the opponent, if they've taken the hit, to also discard a card.
I'm really enjoying Disruption, though, because at least when I was playing Syndra, that's not something I was able to do often. And Fi was a hero that was around, long before I started playing in the kind of heavy hitters meta when I started the game. But he's looking through the graveyard of Vadim. Theo is right now, possibly seeing what else is there that I can be threatened with. What do I need to look out for as these turns continue, as these life totals are kind of getting closer and closer to a...
So, Cara, I like what you were driving at there, but maybe it can be something as simple as Disruption and a Draconic Ninja. Okay, sign me up. Thumbing through the graveyard is the, I think it was like a little bit too wordy.
Where they could be getting to a point where both players, I think, could be presenting lethal fairly soon.
Yeah, we're going to see this game kind of hit a slowing down point as these life totals start to come down. Now,
nice, Jesse.
Important that Vadim does have inevitability on his side with these flick knives, and Theo still holding on to those boosts of Astral Sanctuary, but only going to be able to save one life off of this.
And this is a Spreading Flames that's hitting the board. Now, this is one of those cards that the text reads, Draconic attacks that you control have +1 while their base power is less than the number of Draconic chain links that you control. So the more chain links he's able to get out here, the better that card is. That is blocked with a Tarantula Toxin, followed up by a Searing Emberblade, which is coming in for 3.
Another way to throw to Jesse here would be in... This Spreading Flames doesn't seem to be getting the number of chain links that we've seen in the past. Jesse could say, like, yeah, this is a less than turn for Theo, but where we're at in the game, he's just got to keep slogging his way through. It's a tired punch here and there, but that's what he's got to keep putting together in order to keep Vadim from offering meaningful disruption, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Theo not looking very happy with the turn, deciding to just play out the Warmongers. Gonna do a little more damage than I think most people would expect now that we see this upsticks and run in the hand of Vadim.
Indeed. Now, what else is in the hand? It looks like an Assassin's Call, I believe, and I can't read that from here, and I'm
Reaper's
not gonna
Call,
try.
but it's okay.
Now, in this case, do you think someone should choose peace or war?
I think no matter who you are in this matchup, you're always choosing war. Theo does have the possibility of running into a Rise from the Ashes on his side, so the Warmongers can be dangerous, but looking to maybe just buy a little more space and have a more functional turn after getting disrupted with that Codex and having to discard one of those marquee Anthem effects on the previous turn cycle.
And I see an Ignite in the hand of Theo, and Vadim apparently.
So, Cara, I'm now not sure if you're saying, when you say what should one choose, whether you have an answer in your head or not. I would encourage you to venture a guess. This is another one of those instances where I'm guessing you were like, yeah, they're calling war all day. You can say that and have Jesse respond to it. It doesn't have to be a question. I think by the time you're done with this VOD, you're going to realize that we've overused questions. So I'm not going to harp on that too much longer.
Is playing out
The Gamer 101X said, hey,
mark
was
of the
how
Black
goes
Widow.
it?
This is
It's amazing,
coming
dude.
in for
Just another day in
3, I
paradise.
believe.
It is
They
hot
are
as
flipping to
balls
take
in this
a
room, though.
Good look at it,
And
maybe
so no
weighing
wonder
his
these
decisions
skeeters are
on
after me.
blocking, while Vadim is shuffling his other 2 cards in hand and looking at that Warmonger's Diplomacy, maybe seeing, is there some way that I'm able
Wishing
to
it was something
we'll see
else.
what the turn might look like. Now, does Theo's hand look like something that's possibly going to be able to come back and swing a bunch back at Vadim, or do you think he's probably going to just take some of the damage here?
I think Vadim's going to attempt to buy these Sanctuary Boosts now that he has the Reaper's Call in hand. Get those off the table, mark your opponent, and present disruption. So Theo's hand's going to be pressured, and I think he's going to have a really hard time coming back to present meaningful damage.
Cara, and just like that, the linchpin in this matchup, the piece of equipment we've been talking about that flipped this match, this pairing on its head, is suddenly gone. And Vadim, with a discard of Reaper's Call, makes it null and void.
And that Mark of the Black Widow going up to 4 damage, and that Hunter's Clave.
Even though that is not literally describing what is happening on the board, the damage connecting, the amount of power the Mark of the Black Widow has, that's still play-by-play, what I just did right there. It's still keeping us up to date with what is going on. While it may sound a little bit more like analysis, that's still a realm that you're welcome to be in.
Going right into the graveyard. Now, I will say for an Arachne, it sometimes feels scary to have 0 Hunter's Claves on the board, but he is able to mark and then remove that mark as Theo's life total drops down to 12 against Vadim's 9, getting a little bit closer here and possibly feeling a little bit more manageable for Vadim as he's tilting his head back and forth, maybe thinking about his
apologize,
options.
guys. My eloquent stat is going to start plummeting
Theo's
here.
gotta
Getting a little
find
sleepy.
a turn that Vadim has to block. Discarding banishing, one of the most powerful cards in this Phi deck in favor of potentially taking a more powerful turn on 3 cards.
Powerful.
You still see that pick up the point in the hand of Vadim, which can be something very threatening when you have that Graphene Chelicera. We see an Ignite coming to the board from the side of Theo. That will be coming in for 2, and it will allow other Draconic cards that you're playing next, or any cards that you are activating.
I feel like I haven't heard a life total update in a little bit. And the reason I'm calling it out now, Cara, is we're at a situation where this measly swing of 2 is threatening over 1/5 of Vadim's life total. And that is a very common way for fab casters to kind of bring the moment into focus, because all of a sudden we're coming to the end of the game and there's not much bloodletting that can happen before it's all over.
Cost less to play or
Jesse says, I
activate,
think this is something
which
I
he's
struggled with as
sending
well,
out
because
with
Colin, I
that
did practice a
Searing
game with me on
Everblade.
play-by-play. Knowing when to have that verbal inflection versus
Really trying to buy
just
himself some
describe the
space
turn
here.
as
We're
it
gonna probably
happens.
see a Phi activation come out on the end.
And that will come with time, of course, Jesse. It's always a risk to put you guys in specific roles because it can encourage you to stay in your lane and do nothing but stay in your lane. Every piece of advice that I'm going to give you guys needs to be dealt with in moderation. There are no hard and fast rules in casting, and that's one of the things that I want to drive home. Even though I'm putting you in your seats, you are allowed to dip into each other's purview. That is part of developing chemistry and creating a good broadcast overall. This is not paint by numbers. This is not casting on rails, right? So every piece of advice is meant to steer you in the right direction, but also make sure you don't lose where you came from.
This followed by that inflame the firebrand to just maximize the value here, try to get Vadim into a blocking cycle so that we can continue to send 4 card hands until our opponent is perished.
Jesse, while this is a subjective, this is an opinion of mine, but I do think we should avoid the royal we as much as possible. We don't want to make it feel like we are in either player's camp. I would refer to either the player's pronouns or Phi's pronouns, or say the Phi player, etc. And it harkens back to the point I was making for I believe it was Arena Poner about not making it seem like you're on either player's side or whatever.
Until they are perished, indeed. Now it looks like I see one of the
Lee Sims is in the
trap
house. What's
sort of
up?
cards in hand. And this seems to be an inertia trap that is going to be coming across at Theo. Unsure if it's going to do much here. Now, in his
You are
hand,
sure,
I did
Cara.
see, I believe,
Don't say if you're unsure.
Under the trap door, followed by that pick up the point. So he does have the
Lee
ability
says,
to
is it
buy
typical
back
for a caster
the
to like
Hunter's
pick a
Clave,
lane across
swing
events,
it
always
to
be color or
Lysera,
whatever? Seems
and
tricky
be able to
with
kind of have his
3-person
cake.
rotations. Yeah. So it's less common for us to pick the roles and more common for production to pick the roles for us, i.e. I started in the color seat. My very first casts were alongside 2 solid play-by-play casters as a part of the AG Open Series at the time. One of them, of course, being Mr. Sam O'Byrne himself. And so there just wasn't a need for more play-by-play. And so my first event, my first several matches were in the color seat. And sometimes I go back and look at them just to kind of see how the journey has gone so far. But the main thing gatekeeping me from the analyst role at LSS events is the fact that I don't have deep tournament runs. I don't have the record. I don't have the results, which often are expected to be accompanying analysts. While I do feel like I could do the job admirably well, especially if I knew about it beforehand, it's just something, it's one of those resume pieces that I just don't have. So yeah, I think waffling between the two is totally fine. And you mentioned 3-person casts. That's a very astute point. Oftentimes the play-by-play caster is going to be like the 3rd person out, and usually there will be 2 analysts. At least in my case. And I don't know if that's because oftentimes Sam feels like he can lean on me to do longer stints because that's what I'm used to. At AG, it's 10 hours of casting, and we usually just have a 2-person team. But yeah, usually one will kind of be like a flex role, but they have a stronger strength. For example, when Scott Mines and Gabe Schur do things, Gabe is kind of the flex person because I think he can do play-by-play, and the analyst role is the one that's always kind of designated by another person.
Eat it too, but I don't know if it's going
Pace
to
your
be
time.
enough to get
We
the
also
cycles
implies you're in the
close enough
seat,
for
which
Vadim
you're
to survive the
very
next few
explicitly
turns.
not as a caster. You did do the job.
We do see
alongside
that
me,
up 6
TP.
deployed,
That is very true,
as you had
and that was a really fun
I think this is
aspect
a
of Calling
potentially
San Diego.
really
That was like
bad
a
spot
really odd pairing for me
Theo,
to have
depending
opportunity to do
on
analysis again.
the arsenal target. We did see Theo drop an energy potion, which is curious why he brought it into this matchup. I typically don't like bringing these non-blocks into decks with full of on-hits.
And now we see this coming in 4-5 with Go Again, this Hunter's Clave, waiting on the table and now flicking that Graphene Chelicera at Theo. So that is going to be 1 more damage, bringing him down to 11, and then going right on down as he seems to be taking the damage. Life total's very close now. 5 plays 6. Vadim
Nice, Cara.
versus Theo. Now, I do believe that we are getting into maybe the last 2 turn cycles of this game, if not the last one, depending on...
Yeah, play with some cadence, play with some volume there, Cara. I want to feel the intensity right there. What immediately comes to mind is over the course of this 35-minute game, we have gotten to know these players very well. We've seen a lot of them, but it's almost over. They will be exiting the feature match area, one in victory, the other descending to X and 1 on their run at the Estonia National Championship, something like that.
And what can be presented. And Orb-Weaver Spinneret hitting the table, getting that Graphene Chelicera right on back into the hand of Vadim, who is saying, I am not even going to wait. This is going to come right back out for you. Coming in for 5 with Go again. Very close to lethal, even though Vadim has already used that Flick Knives.
Yeah, so trying to put Theo into an endgame scenario with these Flick Knives, as you mentioned, if it takes all this damage going down to 1, Vadim's going to most likely just block out Theo's entire next turn, and then just present 1 dagger, flick with dagger, kill you.
Cool. Jesse, you went exactly where I think we wanted you to go, but Cara gave you like a very specific and nice springboard, which was even though those Flick Knives have already been activated, and you could launch immediately into, well, unfortunately there is still a dagger and Flick Knives can be activated next turn. So if Theo dares to go down to 1 on this Graphene Chelicera, then he's going to be in a world of hurt and perhaps taking a game loss on Vadim's next turn.
It seems regardless, all he needs is just 1 card left in hand. Do you think Theo's hand seems to have enough
Glad you're enjoying it,
damage to
Pastry.
get there, as you mentioned, that
It's been a lot of fun to
energy
do.
potion is kind of sitting in the hand at this point.
Well, most likely that energy potion is going to be used to fuel resources for the turn. The card that's a little awkward is the Flame Call Awakening, not being able to threaten that extra chain link, as we saw the Phoenix Flame vanished earlier in the game. But does have 2 starters, is going to be able to swing the Ember Blade and the Flame Call Awakening and a Phoenix Flame. But Vadim at 5, you can really just block the 3 real attacks, take the Phoenix Flame and the Searing Ember Blade hits, and then move on and present lethal to your opponent.
And at this point, he still has a couple pieces of his equipment. He does not want to be losing that Flick Knives, but being able to use that Fandel Spring Tunic, should there just be maybe 1 point of damage that kind of ekes over a little bit. I'm unsure if Theo is actually playing many defense reactions at all in this deck. I don't believe I've seen any thus far.
I haven't either. Good shout.
Committing what looks like 2 cards to this Graphene Chelicera, which would only leave him with 2 to really try to hit back as hard as he can for this next turn. We have about 12 and a half minutes left in round 3 as he's holding onto that energy potion and what looks like a Ronin Renegade.
That was another situation. This is a moment because we're tanking on blocks and tensions are really high. We talked last week, Cara, I'm not sure if it was on your game though, about zooming out. We talked about the level 3 to 2 to 1. You DM'd me about this actually. So this is another instance where we can come back out to 2 and perhaps even 3. Talk about the broader context of the event. If you know the number of players, if you know the number of rounds, you know whether or not it's a really bad situation for Theo to be taking an early loss, or if this is something he can shrug off, maybe going into draft, etc., etc. But so, oh God, now I can't remember exactly what you said that made me think about this point.
For a little bit, I'm unsure if Theo is actually playing many defense reactions at all in this deck. I don't believe I've seen any thus far. Committing what looks like 2 cards.
Oh, I know what it was. You talked about 12 and a half minutes remaining, and then you went right back to, and as he is lining up these cards with the energy potion in hand, we switch back into kind of like comfortable empty calorie casting. Instead, only 12 and a half minutes remaining in this round 3. Even so, I don't think we're going to time on this one. There will be a player that dies before all is said and done. That's kind of where I wished you had gone to that. And then it's a throw to the analyst or even a pregnant pause as Theo still debates on blocks. And one of the things I love to bring up here, we talked last week about putting ourselves in the player's seat emotionally. You can see it on Theo's face. I mean, look at him. He's got a smirk on, even though he's got his hand in his chin, because he knows what he has to do. He just doesn't want to do it, right? I love mentioning that because that is like such a
Cards
human
to
response to an
Dysgraphia and
end game like
Chelicera,
this.
which would only leave him with 2 to really try to hit back as hard
Lee
as
says
he
the
can
commentary
for
on
this
commentary
next
is really cool
turn.
perspective.
We
These
have
streams
about
are neat.
12
Thanks.
minutes, 12 and a half minutes left in
I like
round
making neat
3
things.
as he's holding on to that energy potion.
All the
and
better
what
if they
looks like
actually
a
help somebody,
Ronin
right?
Renegade.
Yep, it's a Ronin Renegade, Rising Resentment, Flame Call Awakening,
Ronin
and the
Runner
E-Pod.
Guard.
So is just going to block this Chelicera. Does
I'm just
not want
trolling
to
you,
fall
Jesse.
down
I
to
love
that
you, dude.
lethal threshold because he understands that Vadim is more than happy to just block on the following turn. I'm just going to send the Ronin Renegade into the Emberblade, into the Phoenix Flame. So just get my 2-card 7 and move on.
So we see a Mark of the Black Widow coming into his hand and a Take of the Mantle. We see that Ronin Renegade hitting the table, which is blocked by that Meat Madness, followed by a Searing Emberblade coming in for 3. Vadim looks like he's counting out the damage he could possibly do in his hand.
Another opportunity to add a little bit of flair there, Cara. Something like, and suddenly what seemed to be blood hemorrhaging has slowed to a trickle as a 2-card 7 may very well just meet a 2-card 6 from Vadim, who will respond with 2 cards. That's the consideration. That's the slugfest that this high octane game has ended in.
I saw him poking around between the between the Arachne card and the Graphian Chelicera, the second Meat Madness, hitting the table in blocks to that Searing Emberblade.
And that's the third one that we've seen this game.
Followed up by that Phoenix Flame.
Now that is super relevant here. That's just something I always keep in the back of my head.
is
I'm
very
always
happy
checking that
with the way
tally.
these last 2 turn cycles have gone. Now you get to keep the Mark of the Black Widow and the Take Up the Mantle, in addition to
2
having the
compounding
Flick
anger.
Knives on the table. And I believe he's going to look to kill Theo this turn because Theo is not going to want to have to keep blocking.
Indeed, and that Mark of the Black Widow hitting the table with 3 damage being presented. We do have the Flick Knives available. We have the card if he wants to use that Take Up.
And now, Cara, I don't know if it was as a response to Jesse, but you're starting to do the we thing again. Let's eliminate we.
The Mantle to just start paying for things. He may be able to get another. Oh no, does this have go again? It does not.
Now that Pastry
because
agreed
he is
with me,
not
I
marked
feel
on
more
Theo's
confident
side.
about beating it out of you.
He still has access to the Flick Knives, so if the Flick Knives comes over, marks Fi, and then the Take of the Mantle goes through and hits, then can potentially get go again, but I think it's more of, I'm trying to buy cards.
Whoa,
I will play this Take
buy
Up the
them
Mantle
he
if it kills you.
did.
Yep, and then 2 Compounding Anger going on to the Chain Link as blocking cards for Theo at this point. Vadim holding on to that Flick Knife, seeming as if he was going to turn it and activate it. Now, indeed he is. He is going to be sending... No, he keeps faking me out, Jesse. What do you think he's looking for?
I think he is doing to you what he has done to all of his previous opponents in that you don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, you can't make any correct decisions. True assassin player mentality.
Savage.
That seems fair. All right, and now Theo is marked. Life totals are 4, plays 4. That Mark of the Black Widow now coming in for 4.
Yeah, Jesse, I don't think it's even just a military thing. It's a very card gamer thing as well.
And Vadim looking at the final card in his hand with 9.5 minutes remaining in the round. Theo holding on to 2 of his cards.
And it's
Now,
not something we
with the life
commented on
totals at
last week, so
4,
I
looking at the
don't
cards in his hand,
fault
doesn't
you
have enough
for
to be able to clap back
not
after
eliminating it this week.
I'm thinking that it seems like Vadim may be able to just kind of snipe this one out. Arachne the Assassin, kind of a tale as old as time between the Arachnes and the Phis.
Yeah, we're going to see this Take Out the Mantle deployed here. Unsure if he's going to switch to anything, as he is getting over by 1 point of damage and going to rip a card out of Theo's hand for the Mark of the Black Widow effect.
Nice, Jesse.
And that mark going away, Theo
That was an instance, I think, Jesse, where you could have stayed on there because you've had enough time to look at the hand of Phi, and so you probably know what the turn cycle looks like for Theo based on the banished card.
deciding which card to send to the banished zone. That is...
Okay, Cara, who's the winner of this turn cycle? Go ahead and declare it and have Jesse respond before we pass back over to Theo. And then Jesse, your role as the analyst, I think at this point is to try to concoct the next few turn cycles. Like, what does Theo at this point need to go right in order for him to get back in this game? What has gone right for him here, which is, in my mind, he's still technically out of that flick range, that the inevitable flick range at least. But Vadim has a huge plethora of attack reactions that can make blocking really hard. That kind of stuff.
Rowdy? Oh.
That is this round's on me.
So they're all still drinking.
Yes.
The life total is currently Vadim at 4, Theo at
I wanna be
3.
drinking.
We are
It's too late.
moving very quickly now. It seems that at the end of that turn, Theo just arsenaled and passed right back, leaving 4 cards in the hand of Vadim, who is coming through with a cut from the same cloth, which will be giving his next dagger attack go again.
So yeah, one of the dynamics at play here, and in pretty much any end game of Flesh and Blood, is players posturing to get the full 4-card hand. And that's oftentimes the thing that can slam the door. And so staying a turn cycle or two ahead of that, getting on top of like the card economy, I think is a really important part to calling these end games, because Vadim was kind of on the back foot, but he was able to find himself. I want to say it was a 2-card hand with an arsenal that completely stripped whatever Theo was going to be able to do, and then all of a sudden he set up over the course of like 2 or 3 turn cycles this end game that is very favorable for him,
as well as allowing him to look at Theo's hand.
and that all goes back to understanding when I should be taking damage, understanding when I should be pushing it instead, or blocking out.
Vadim's taking a closer look, though. I think that's very astute, being able to understand exactly what your opponent's hand looks like in these last turns.
Yeah, maybe not familiar with some of the Draconic Ninja cards, but I think Theo looking very dejected, kind of understanding that he is on the back foot here, and this might just be the last turn of the game, as we do see another 0-4 pump in Vadim's hand with a Kiss of Death.
Okay, so being able to actually, even if you're able to get him down to 2, and then you send out that Kiss of Death, and then something else flick knives the Kiss of Death, not only will that hit, it will deal an extra damage. So this is looking like it's very much going to be the last turn of the game if Vadim can just happen to play his cards in the correct order. The next dagger attack already coming in for +4 with that cut through the same cloth.
Make it 8.
And an up sticks and run also coming in. This is a very large dagger. This is coming in for 3 and 8, 11, I believe.
Wait, did I miss that? Did we say that the kiss was going to get flicked? Oh, because of the black deck we spat at us.
Theo, considering his blocks in his hand, and
sorry, I missed that. I was reading chat.
Opportunity to even survive this turn, knowing the life totals are so close and so low at this time. Putting out all of his cards, Vadim says, "I got one better." Sends out that to the point. Coming in for the win is Arachne Marionette. Now that was a very hard fought battle to the very end, Jesse.
Okay, that was good, Cara. That was definitely better than anything we saw as far as calling the end of the game last week. I still think that there is a way for us to give that a little bit more of an uppercut, and it doesn't necessarily need to be because you are raising your voice in a really big way. What I want you to kind of do right there is recap those last, like the most intense moments of those like, for example, if we were harping on the macro of those ending turn cycles, that's something you could call back to. And over the course of 3 grueling turn cycles, what started as a slugfest ended with both players spinning their wheels in the mud, using the last of their strength in order to get over. But over the course of those 3 turn cycles, Vadim sets up the kill shot, and there is just nothing that Fi can do to stand in the way of a kiss of death for 11. Then Jesse can go into, the finer points of this game where da-da-da-da-da, and the difference maker was blah, and so on and so forth. So we get to our end there. Oh, I'm going to hear what Jesse has to say real quick.
Yeah, I think Vadim played this game very, very well. It constantly presented a bunch of decision points to where if Theo made the incorrect assessment or got too greedy, he was going to be able to slowly accrue that board position and that tempo across the game. And that's really what you need as Marionette. You want to disrupt. You want to get the 5-player to block. You want to get them to think, should I do this or should I not? And once they make that wrong decision, that's your foothold into the game.
Nice,
We're
Jesse.
waiting for one
Yeah, cool.
final mistake, and we are going to be following Vadim as he continues on into round 4 and maybe even into the top 8. But for now, we are going to a break, and we'll see you when we come right on back for more Flesh and Blood.
Yay. Oh, that was great, guys. So much better than last week. Kudos to you. A couple more points. Cara, the main thing I'm looking for you to do is really settle into the seat. Still feels a little bit rigid. It'll come with more reps, but I encourage you to try to find the relaxing moments, unlock that little bit of lightheartedness that I felt for you right in the middle of that game. You two are developing a chemistry, which is really cool. The back and forth, while I just harped on Cara for being a little rigid, it didn't feel as contrived as it did last time around. Obviously, technical difficulties, now kind of not what you're dealing with. That was a much cleaner match to watch. Really happy with the progress that you've made over the course of the week. I think in general, what we need to work on is constantly staying in the context of what we're seeing. Set up Easter eggs not just for the audience, but also for yourself, because the more poignant your commentary is at the beginning of the game, it gives you so many other things to easily call back to as the end game progresses, and also provides the reason for the end games that we see. Like the reason that the Arachne player won was because of so much that came before, so many good decision points. And if we're calling those out, it gives us a better canvas with which to work. Awesome stuff. Okay. Over to chat real quick. Pastry Time says, this is a hard thing we were talking about the last few turn cycles and setting up the kill. This is a hard thing to both realize in the seat and even explain, lol, but I feel like there's more macro level stuff that got missed that would have streamlined this section. I totally agree, Pastry. And a lot of that, we kind of went over those as we saw them. And I think we created nice little strings to carry them all together throughout the course of the game. Sorry, words are becoming hard. I'm very tired. Kind of the idea that setting yourself up so that the actions, yes, you're explaining, you've shortcut some of the words, or if that makes sense. Yeah. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay, and then I missed one by Arena Poner 361. Oh, no, there was another one. What do you suggest in situations where you aren't sure what's going on in Fab? Sometimes things are super confusing, even for pros, it seems. Yes, you can even reference a match that Mitch Leslie is going to be really pissed that I brought up. But I think there was a tournament where we had 2 Kano mirrors and Mitch declared the wrong person as the winner in both of them. He's going to be distraught that I mentioned it, as I would be. But just goes to show you that even the best in the business can be gotten by confusing things, especially when players aren't representing everything properly and helping the stream. Not that that's, a requirement of theirs, but we always appreciate people that help us out. I would say that sometimes it is appropriate to be genuinely confused, especially in the play-by-play seat. Honestly, in both seats, because I think the general assumption for casters is that we have an omniscient point of view, and so we should be fairly omniscient in our presentation to the audience. I don't completely agree with that, because I think sometimes the more valuable thing to do for the broadcast is to live in obscurity with the people at home. And I'll give you an example of this. The knee-jerk reaction, especially when you have full control of hand cams and that kind of thing, is always to try to keep up to date with what is in the hand. The classic example of, does this player sending a CNC have the pummel in hand because they're representing it? Whatever. But at a super pivotal point in a game, or a tournament, honestly, where that is the presented thing, and say in the confidence monitor or something like that, I catch it, it might actually be more entertaining and build more drama if I instead live in oblivion with everybody else at home and play up the fact that we don't know if there's a pummel there, and then also affords you the opportunity or the it might give your brain permission to try to think through the lines that are open to the defending player. If it is a pummel, if it isn't, what are their considerations, which is something you might not talk about if you immediately just go, oh yeah, the pummel is there, so, they're screwed either. It like trains your brain into corners, whereas I think the former option might in some cases leave more open to curiosity, and it's also going to make sure that everybody watching at home has their eyes glued to the screen, whether they were listening to it before or watching it before, because they want to see if that pummel hits the table, right? I hope that answers the question. Okay, great job, guys. I gave my overall notes. We are gonna switch to I think I'm gonna go to Jesse and Caw, just because, oh my god, if I don't have, depending on the length of this match, I may need to go sleepsies before we see the third one. And I think Jesse and Caw definitely needed more work as a pair than Cara and Caw did. So I'm gonna
And we're here with our first quarterfinal match at the Estonian National Championship. We've got Junas on the left playing Syndra, Drakai of Retribution, and Indrik on the right on Gravy, Shipwreck Looter. Looks like we've got Gravy on the play here. Compass to look. And a handful of allies, it looks like. I'm seeing a lot of yellow.
So I think I got a note from Jesse and Caw saying that the video they sent didn't actually include like a nice fleshed out imagined intro like I had requested last week. They did tell me that they promised they are working on it. They just felt like they didn't do it in this one, and this was their best foot forward, which is something I would prefer over than hitting every single assignment.
There. But we've got a Jittery Bones in the blue, discarding a Rigor Mortis, coming in for one go again.
Keep me honest on audio here as well. It sounds good to me, but I know.
How do you think this matchup normally goes? The Mask of Momentum triggers working on allies seems pretty good for Syndra, but is it enough?
I think traditionally this match is very Syndra favored.
Oh shoot, we've got an instance where Jesse is a lot lower than Caw. So I'm gonna beef it up overall, but less than I did for Cara and Jesse, and hope that this is a nice middle ground.
Cards on defense to save life, and then punch back and guarantee Mask of Momentum trigger is going to provide a lot of value.
Oh, there's Caw. I was wondering if you were here, buddy. It's really taking. I'm going to scream to production for a hand cam view if CNC is possible. That's my boy.
Yeah, and speaking of aggression, we've got that Rigor Mortis out of the graveyard immediately, swinging in for 6, but meeting a nice 6 block from Junas. And Indrik here ending just with the ally established. No gold, so to see. I feel like that might leave them potentially stranded moving on into the later turns of the game if they draw a bunch of allies in hand.
Yeah, I want to draw some attention to the balance of justice that Indrik has presented. So notably not Crown.
Cool. Before I hear your point, Jesse, that was a very nice throw call without asking a question. We're starting to understand the examples of when that works and how that works. Very nice. Jesse picked up your point about no gold being utilized there and immediately looked at the headpiece, because that's oftentimes where we get that free gold established.
So you're not going to have that early gold generation at the start, but you're looking to try to capitalize on the Mask of Momentum and Ancestral Empowerment effects when they get...
I'll pause real quick. That is an echo that you're hearing from Jesse. None of your headsets, AirPods are messed up. So we'll just live with that technical bit right there.
Overlaid across each other.
But I feel like that's something that the Syndra can play around, just not lining up both of those on the same turn. I feel like having something like the Carrion Crown.
Hold on, let me hear it, because I'm hearing Descent.
That might leave them potentially stranded moving on into the later turns of the game if they draw a bunch of allies in hand.
Yeah, I want to draw some attention to the balance of justice that Indrik has presented. So notably not crown. So you're not going to have that early gold generation at the start, but you're looking to try to capitalize on the mask of momentum and ancestral empowerment effects when they get overlaid across each other.
But I feel like that's something that the Syndra can play around. Just
Yeah, Ka, I think in this situation, even if you disagree, because play-by-play has started up again, there's an ignite on the table, and it seems to not be going at rigor mortis, which maybe means that Junus has other plans for that zombie ally. There's other stuff to be talking about here. And even if you do disagree, what Jesse's trying to do here is to help the audience understand why the classic headpiece for Gravy, or one of the two classic headpieces for Gravy Bones, is not in the head slot. And that is something that we need to talk about. So I feel like that is leaning towards no but in an instance where it's not helpful to us.
not lining up both of those on the same turn would. I feel like having something like the Carrion Crown or the Crown of Dominion for that gold might be more useful. But Ignite coming in here, no blocks declared.
And Jesse, I think you've done right by not, taking that throw. What you could have done instead is slip into the play-by-play world. Like, if that's something you don't want to talk about anymore, and I think you're right for not wanting to, this is an instance where you can pick up a little bit of the play-by-play, and that's something that is going to take a lot more reps together to really feel comfortable. I mean, it's just like in tennis doubles or pickleball when you call for a swap and both players run to the other side. I don't know, maybe I'm not talking to the right audience here, but it's an instance in a lot of sports where players will literally physically switch positions when it makes sense, and that's something that takes a number of reps and a particular chemistry with your partner. Pastry says it's also easier to just say without X, we'll see if they run into this issue before you transition into just back into the game state. I think yeah.
From Indrik, 2 taken, down to 38 now as first blood is drawn in our quarterfinal game. Kunai for free off of the Ignite effect, taking Rigor Mortis back into the graveyard where he belongs. And
damn right.
Keeping the chain link alive here.
Yeah, keeping the chain link alive and still having flick, so it looks
keeping the chain link alive. Why does that matter?
Looks like the hand is just a bunch of head jabs. Ronin Renegade coming out. Now, Indrik pretty incentivized to block here, but Junus does still have that flick knives to keep it mask momentum up here.
Finally, we get the mask
So
momentum.
might
Great.
just be getting 2 cards here from Indrik's hand, which would definitely make things more difficult.
Careful about your here's, Ka. I think you already identified it, but that is one of your no words. It's okay here and there, but here and there, but make sure it doesn't become
For the Pirate Necromancer,
overused,
given that he's got no gold to work with.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason that the matchup can be so difficult from the side of Gravy Bones. Whenever you do commit cards to defense, your opponent just has flick knives that constantly threaten mask momentum over the top. And you really don't want to be using your 3 blocks in front of their 2 and 1 power attacks.
Oh, but the second Blood in the Water coming out here, discarding an Oyston from hand. Not exactly optimal, but does establish another ally in the graveyard. And this one, a pretty important one, swings for 3 every turn, or just makes a gold when it dies. Murderous Rabble coming in for... Oh, Prismatic was played. Okay, Murderous Rabble coming in for 5 go again, revealing...
Wow, I missed that too. When did he put that Prismatic in the graveyard? He must have not put it on the board first. So I don't fault you for missing that. Yeah. So Ka, you touched on Oyston. I feel like that was an opportunity to throw over to color, because Jesse is in a good position to talk about the efficacy of Oyston specifically into Draconic Ninjas. So it's not bad that you did it, especially because we got back into the action so quick. But that was a potential, that was a possibility for a throw. And it also had, what I haven't heard you guys do quite yet, and this was difficult for me to do early on in my casting career because I hadn't been in the seat for big moments in Flesh and Blood yet. It's something that becomes a lot easier once you've actually casted those big moments, is draw parallels to famous games. And the reason I'm mentioning it here is because of how vital Oyston was in Colin Erickson's game against Ashlyn Slattery. It was pretty close to the PTLA sigil moment where he draws off of a gold at the beginning of the turn, and because Ashlyn didn't deal with the Oyston or the rigor mortis on the previous turn cycle, he draws into tip the barkeep, and all of a sudden with the rum, he's essentially able to send a 1-card 9. And you see what I'm saying? So you can call back to historic moments in Flesh and Blood when they kind of present themselves, and it leaves another thing for your audience to look out for.
Then another prismatic ley line on top.
Yeah, this is a fine 2-card hand. You're going to be able to establish the Oyston here and swing for another 5.
Yeah, I mean, what's that? Effectively like a 2-card 10 if you squint really hard? That seems like pretty good numbers. Or sorry, 2-card 10. Because we played the Prismatic and then the Murderous Rabble. And then the Oyston potentially is just putting down pressure, or if Junis decides to kill it, might just give Indrik some of that much needed gold to start up their economy.
Yeah, I think Junis is pretty incentivized to not kill the Oyston. One of the rules of thumb is you want to starve Gravy off their gold generation as long as possible, because without the gold, it becomes really hard for them to do all of the things that make their turns really powerful.
But at the same time, you can only afford to ignore some of his friends for so long, right?
Well, his weapons are the friends made along the way, so yes.
Trust your co-caster there, Ka. I think he's making a very valid point. Let's see. I think what might be a little more appropriate for that moment is, like, if you want to dissent with Jesse, that was the no but version. The yes and version, I think, might be presenting the audience, like, if you feel the need to do this, would be presenting the audience with a reasonable moment to kill Oyston. Say, if Gravy Bones has already established a significant pile of gold, then that one off of Oyston doesn't matter nearly as much, right? So if you want to, I just want to say again, if you want to dissent, there are ways to do it while adding to the value of the broadcast and also still supporting your co-caster, right? That is one of the things that builds chemistry, is knowing that you always have each other's backs.
At some point you will have to kill it, but if you can threaten Gravy's life total before that matters, that's generally the idea.
Understood. But Junis's life total currently was the thing under threat, down to 30 now as we move into their turn. Presenting Kunai off of a Draco Fire, coming in for 3 go again.
You mentioned the life, but I don't think we got a life total update. And that is important here because we talked about success states and fail states of each of the decks. And those are the things that we want to be presenting at the beginning of the game, and the things that we constantly want to be assessing the winner of each turn cycle based on. So I would argue that one of the success states for Gravy Bones in a difficult matchup like Syndra is resolving those prismatic ley lines for at least 5 value. He does that 3 times in a game. Life totals, like, he could very well get Junis into a spot where he has to block to stay alive rather than, block just to get rid of redundant cards in the hand that don't function.
I feel like at 37 life still, Indrik probably isn't too incentivized to cover up Chainlink 1.
It really depends on what Indrik values here. If Indrik values the Mask Momentum trigger, he is kind of priced into blocking Chainlink 1 if he wants to deny it, because then it'll force the flick to continue the chain. By not blocking on Chainlink 1, he's saying, I think I have a good enough hand where I can either take the damage or I can block on chain links 2 and 3 when there's something more impactful for me to put my 3 block in front of.
Yeah,
Cool,
but that
Jesse.
might potentially come back to bite Indrik, as we can see a Ancestral Empowerment in the hand for Junis. Might be a good time.
Establishing that success state, fail state story as well would have put a lot more drama on the prismatic ley line revealed on the top of the deck to freaking mosquito to murderous rabble, which hampered that turn by 1 damage, but also bodes well for Indrik because he is enacting his game plan somewhat blessed by variance because he's finding these prismatic ley lines within the first couple turns of the game.
To get that balance of justice involved if Indrik is hoping to get the value to line up exactly with those 2 draw effects at once. Lava Vein Loyalty, though, coming in for 3 go again after that kunai. Also, no blocks declared from Indrik, it looks like, as Ancestral Empowerment is played in reactions, so not going to get any punish for blocks here, but is still going to push 1 more damage over the top, putting Indrik down to 30 as well. And the hand has another Ancestral Empowerment, I believe.
Notably, this is the only ninja card that Junis has in the hand. We do see a Ravenous Rabble and a
Fucking nailed it, Jesse. Nice.
Hunt the Hunter.
Ooh, that's true. But putting that into Arsenal might not.
But we didn't quite get there. So Ka, while he has talked about Ancestral Empowerment getting played, he's not read the card. And I don't necessarily expect him to based on how quick Syndra turns are played. He's got to be ready for more play-by-play. But Jesse, you go, he has another, you react to Ka saying that there's another Ancestral Empowerment in hand. You say, but there's only a ninja card. There's no more ninja cards in the hand. We haven't technically gotten out why that is relevant. I know as somebody who is inundated with flesh and blood every single day, this is a very easy bone that you can throw to an uneducated player in the audience. We talked last week about trying not to 100% of the time cast to the least experienced person in the audience because that gets tiresome and boring. But this is like 2 or 3 words that you can send to them to keep them well informed.
Be the worst thing for Junis either. Just being able to potentially get over the top of some blocks in a future turn to get that Mask Momentum trigger.
Yeah, I think at this point, if Junis is trying to figure out how to sequence the hand, I think I'm leading on this Rabble and then flicking to make the resource off of my Blood Splattered Vest and send this Hunt the Hunter and Arsenal the Ancestral Empowerment.
Yeah, and then that also potentially still keeps threatening Mask of Momentum here. Rabble reveals a red off the top. Oh, Oyston was the target for that Rabble just to guarantee the draw off the Mask of Momentum. But as you'd mentioned earlier, that gold, giving that first gold to Gravy might be really critical, so potentially could come back to bite Junis. We'll see how it goes.
Now, why might Junis be doing that? Perhaps because Pain in the Backside is a ninja card, does allow him to continue converting that Ancestral Empowerment and make this turn go even wider. Let's see if Jesse...
Pain in the Backside for 3 go again. Gets 3 block out of the equipment, that Balance of Justice.
All of a sudden online. See, this is why we trust our analyst, right? Jesse talked about the efficacy of Balance of Justice. We push back on it. It's getting full value on, what is this? It's Junis's first, second or third real turn of the game.
Going to be able to draw Indrik a card this turn if they so desire.
Yeah, this is kind of why I'm not a big fan of the line. Like, guaranteeing the Mask Momentum is powerful, but also allowing Indrik to pop the Balance of Justice on this turn is going to be a little bit of an issue.
Oh, the second empowerment does come down on that Pain in the Backside, so going to get 1 over the 3 block, and then on hit 1 more with that.
So Jesse, I think there's a way to make that more of a learning moment. What does Junis gain by sending the Ravenous Rabble at Gravy Bones? Rather, you talked about how he guarantees the draw off of Mask of Momentum with Ravenous Rabble. We can, I think, also touch on the possibility of just stripping more cards away from Indrik if he dares to try to block out that Mask of Momentum trigger. And that feeds into trying to keep Gravy off of his success state, which is resolving all these prismatic ley lines, which Junus has seen at this point. So you can present another way forward while you are dissenting from our active player's choice of line. It also probably bears mentioning that he has another Ancestral Empowerment in the hand. And yeah, there's now an Indrik card he's got.
Indrik.
Cheers, Pastry. Much love, brother. Thanks for hanging out.
28 now. Once everything is said and done, looks like Junus debating a Flick Knives activation as well. Display Loyalty coming out after all the damage is conferred here. I believe, yep, there's the fealty. No resource made off the Blood Splatter, though. Perhaps Junus just holding on to that Hunt the Hunter for now.
It'll most likely come at the end of this. You're already priced into this line by playing the second Ancestral Empowerment, so you just want to convert your hand to all the damage. Here comes the Flick.
God, that is
down to 27 after having a dagger mercilessly thrown at them. And the resource made, and just as you predicted, that Hunt the Hunter coming out at the end of the combat chain here for 5, and going to mark Indrik as well. Looks like immediate no blocks here from our Gravy Bones player. The mark shown and immediately taken back. Down to 22 now.
He knows what he's got to do.
Loyalty is created.
So right after, what did Ka say? All the way down to 22. He leaves a pregnant pause. That's for you, Jesse, to jump in. And that's another moment where we can declare a winner of the turn cycle or just provide broader context to the match. Yes, Indrik got full value on that Balance of Justice, but that combat chain was incredibly fearsome from Junus. Both of these players doing a great job at enacting their game plans to take it away from the opponent. Indrik has got to not only be resolving these prismatic ley lines, but also put on troublesome allies that, yes, while they provide Mask of Momentum triggers, they also save Indrik a hefty amount of life.
Then we'll just see an activation of the Cinder to buy back the dagger and pass it back. Gravy keeping his whole hand is a little scary. That's why I wasn't really super excited about the Balance of Justice.
Dan, we do have audio feedback, so we do have monitors in our ears.
Good amount of damage in for your trouble.
And here we go. Prismatic Leyline gonna buff up this Golden Tipple, which is going to discard an Anka Drag.
Which is great, because then I can hear my voice all the time, which is all I want.
Just continuing to find more friends along the way, and might just be lining up another big Prismatic turn. Gold created, card drawn, but I couldn't see what it was.
That's okay. Be comfortable living in oblivion with the audience. Just say card drawn. Over to Junus for consideration.
Yeah, this is pretty scary, knowing that Indrik kept most of their hand. So being able to convert the ley line for a bunch of damage and put one of those chunkier allies into the board is really what he wants to be doing. He wants to disincentivize Junus from attacking his life total. He wants to use these allies to really protect himself while also accruing value over the course of the game.
Yeah,
nice,
Anka,
Jesse.
one of those allies that might be pretty easy for Cinder to take down, though. 3 health, I believe. So any head
yes, you are going to hear yourselves in the head. It's not as jarring as it
we've got this 4 on this
sounds.
Golden Tipple to contend with.
It's honestly, I think Discord does that, doesn't it? I want to say when I'm on a call on Discord, I have a headset in, there's a little bit of monitor.
I would assume Junus is not interested in blocking this, and as I say that,
I promise
immediately
it
no
won't
blocks
feel
declared.
weird.
Down to 26 goes our Syndra.
No,
Red
it's
thread
necessary, brother. I
pumping
promise.
up to a third resource. Gold-baited hook activated.
Part of the job. Get used to it.
Anka Drag Under is dragged out of the grave, swinging in with that resource off of the dead threads, coming in for a pretty respectable 7 off of that prismatic.
That was a nice little bit of flavor there, Ka. Anka Drag Under was drug up to do the nasty work of Gravy Bones. Cute. I like it.
Yeah, this is kind of what Indrik wants over the course of the game. He wants to be able to walk the Syndra's life total down so that later in the game, when he's able to pop this gold stack
hell
and
was
send
that?
a bunch of things like Conqueror of the Heist,
Anybody else hear that?
or
Am I
the
tripping?
more aggressive cards in the deck that Syndra has to block you, and the more cards he takes out of Syndra's hand, the less he's threatened on the way back.
Yeah, we're already kind of
Great.
getting to that lower
Nice,
life
Jesse.
total, Junis. Starting the turn off at 19 now to Indrik's 22. We'll see how much work they can manage with a 4-card hand here. I believe Art of the Dragon, Blood, Hot on Their Heels, Pain in the Backside, and a blue Warmonger's Diplomacy. So plenty of ways to kill the Anka, but the damage potential for this turn, I feel like it seems a lot lower without the arsenal.
Jesse,
That's
I want
kind
to
of
talk
the
about
ebb and flow
Warmongers
of
here.
Syndra. So you'll take these really big turns in which you have an arsenal, or when you have
He talked about Warmongers in the hand. I really want to talk about its efficacy into Gravy Bones. I think that's a huge talking point. I feel like that card is, at least in part, there to screw over Gravy.
have these ancestral empowerment effects, and then you'll take a relatively smaller turn. Still pushes out good value per card, but isn't going to be that big, overwhelming combat chain that we're known to see from Draconic Ninja.
Yeah, but
Good point, but there's another level of depth to go, I think.
all of these cards in hand do at least kill that Anka. I wonder if Junis will have to direct one of those attacks toward it, perhaps using the Mask Momentum on the to get the draw off the Anka hit. Maybe play something like that Warmonger's Diplomacy. I feel like that card is pretty good against Gravy, especially stopping things like ally play into swing. Can make their turns really awkward sometimes.
So, I like that. That was you. I think you were trying to give Jesse the Warmonger's Diplomacy as a talking point. Maybe not necessarily. Maybe that's something I'm latching on to. But this is a much better way to kind of steer your color back to where you want them to be, and that comes with trust. Obviously, we're all human, so we're like, and we're not telepathic. So you're, no matter how much chemistry you have, every now and then a point that you are trying to impart to your partner is going to get dropped, and so you bringing it back right there in a pretty elegant way is a nice.
But yeah,
is
if
good.
Junis can land this Warmongers, he's going to be
Sorry, man.
very far
Words
ahead
get
on
harder
tempo.
with
It's
every
gonna mean
15
that
minutes
a little bit of
that
the damage
elapses.
coming back from Indrik's side isn't going to be as much, and he's going to be able to protect that life total to just continue to keep up the pressure.
Yeah, Pain in the Backside responded to by a look at the top of the deck for Indrik. Really thinking about how to navigate through this turn. You can see Cheating Scoundrel put on blocks here, so no
Really thinking about how to navigate through this turn.
damage done by this Pain in the Backside. Does kind of make this Mask of Momentum a lot less threatening as a result. Junis has exactly 3 cards in hand, and it would take quite a bit of work to make 3 attacks in a row work out.
Yeah, I can see that World Cobb, but obviously the thing I want you to remember about that note was that you guys, no matter what happened, you recovered well and you did it gracefully. Mistakes are always going to happen. It's the way we recover from them that are the thing that we need to learn. Not to never make mistakes, but rather how to get back up when we fall. That's always going to be the more valuable thing to learn than to just do it perfectly.
Fealty popped for Art of the Dragon Blood Draconic Edition. So going to be coming in for 4 Go Again, and the next 3 Draconic cards are also going to cost 1 less. Met by a Blood in the Water, though. Waiting to see
Third one already.
Is going to discard or destroy the top card. Looks like that is not the case. Hot on Their Heels takes out the Anka.
There is an opportunity to activate Anka in response to the attack, but it's not relevant here because Mask of Momentum is not currently turned on.
Like Junis was expecting to draw a card off Mass Momentum there, but players astutely saying that no, these chain links are blocked out. Does get to end on that Warmongers though, which we talked about. Going to be really hard for Indrik to play through this.
Yeah, Indrik perhaps looking to keep the hand and send back a formidable turn of both allies and swings, but in this case, going to be forced to choose one or the other here. Those Marvel War and Peace tokens look so nice.
And that was an opportunity for you to jump in there, Jesse. Cod just talked about the ideal Gravy Bones turn, where you can mix in allies and attacks. I think that's a moment where color can latch onto that and beleaguer the point a bit to make the audience understand how dire the situation is for Indrik, because he doesn't have any board already established. That's kind of the bailout for Warmonger's diplomacy. Without any already there, then Indrik is actually put in a position where he might call peace. Gotcha. So Jesse says this was one of the ones where I just said that and didn't know where to go. It happens. We'll get better.
War chosen.
Take a think here.
That's this is another instance where random access memory brain is where we want to be for color. There's always something in your head to talk about.
Yeah, it looks like War was chosen in the end. I didn't manage to catch the hand of Indrik, but that does mean that they won't be able to establish any allies onto the board this turn, so might be able to get Junis some good tempo here, perhaps not even being attacked this turn.
I wonder if this means that we're going to see a Conqueror of the High Seas come out and play.
Gold baited hook activated. Dead threads floating 1 resource. Golden tipple. Going to be coming across for 1.
Okay. Jesse, I think we could have gone a little bit further on the Conqueror of the High Seas comment. Maybe something like there are only so many attack action cards in the Gravy Bones deck because he doesn't even have a weapon. So War without any allies established as pseudo weapons can only mean a few things.
Yeah, cannot activate the gold baited hook while under Warmonger.
That makes sense. Golden tipple still coming in for 1 though. Much less threatening now without that on-hit gold. Junis willing to take 1 measly point of damage, falling down to 18 now. As a Jittery Bones comes across again. I don't believe any allies are going anywhere though. Does just go for the blind flip off the top, but does not find another friend. Instead finds a Barkeep waiting to be tipped. Junis, once again, no blocks on that one. Down to 16 now. So that Warmonger's diplomacy.
Barkeep waiting to be tipped. She's going to be waiting a while.
Really buying Junis a lot of space here. Indrik not being able to pull out a Rigor Mortis or a Sawbones to swing with. Only took 3 damage during that turn.
We do see a little bit of a punish on that blind flip off the Jittery Bones from Indrik as he draws into 2 Conqueror of the High Seas, 1 ally, and 1 blue.
But with those gold could potentially...
Jesse says, I probably could have said that Gravy activation indicates the desire to play an attack action card that is at least cost 1 or more.
Potentially go digging, right?
It's going to be a really big turn from Junis here, though, because that hand does not block well if you want to play those cards.
So I'm still missing a winner of the turn cycle, or at least like a status checkup on Indrik after getting through that Warmonger's diplomacy. I think he kind of made the best of a bad situation, and while no, he wasn't able to do the ally and attack thing that Gravy Bones wants to be doing, he was able to set up meaningful decomposing dudes in the yard for later, and he's still chipping away at Junis. He's got him under half of his starting life total. That is within striking distance for a big turn that can very easily be fueled by 3 gold tokens in the coffers.
And depending on the on-hits that Junis presents, we could be looking at...
Arena Poner 361 asks, as a caster, Bryce, are you comfortable with any hero you see? If Olympia is on stream, do you got it covered? Lol. No is the real answer to that question. I mean, we have, what is it now? Like 30 some odd playable heroes in Flesh and Blood. And I would say like a whopping 16 of those I'm probably not going to see in the booth, something like that. Maybe it's a little bit less. but the dregs of the game are really difficult. That being said, I do have the vast majority of these heroes covered pretty dang well. I'm blessed with a really strong memory, and for some reason cards just click in my brain. And so when I can have the majority of them without really using a lot of processing power, it does afford me the opportunity, and like I was talking about last week, the hours in the seat to kind of experience things a little bit more in slow motion than, for example, Jesse and Cara are experiencing it. So I always have some sort of reference up next to me, a bailout card. And so oftentimes what I'll do is I'll just have February open and I'll have my filters locked and ready. And for example, if I see an Olympia come up, I'm immediately filtering for cards that I think are going to be relevant in the match. I will try to refresh myself as much as possible at the beginning, but I'll also keep it actively up. And usually if I, like, for the most part, even if I am rusty on some cards, I can usually remember like 1 or 2 words in the title, and that's oftentimes enough to get me there. Otherwise, you can find plenty of instances where I lean on my co-caster, who might be more well versed.
Yeah, I think the hand is just 2 Fire Tenant Strike First, a Rising Resentment, and a Lava Vein Loyalty. So the standard 0 for 3 go again hand for a Draconic Ninja, but those Fire Tenant Strike Firsts are going to buff up some Draconic attacks. Going to be threatening a good amount of damage here. Definitely not lethal unless a Mask Momentum trigger potentially gets involved, but we'll see.
As a caster, you learn a lot of ways to cast well, but also ways to pretend like you're casting well.
Looks like Fire Tenant Strike First is the call for our first chain link of the turn here. Compass of Sunken Depths, looking at the top card.
Yeah, we shouldn't be talking about Compass there, I don't think. Instead, we should be explaining what Fire Tenant Strike First does. 3 go again, will buff the next Draconic attack by 1.
Yeah, I think Indrek is probably fine here with a little bit of a life total lead. He is up 6 life, so it's essentially 2.
I want to make sure you heard it, Ka, in case you don't go back and watch that match with Jesse and Cara. One of the things I was missing from Cara a lot on play-by-play was the number, the damage coming through when you name a card, to keep us updated and well informed, constantly trying to paint a picture in the minds of the audience so that they can picture the board state as well as you can see it.
2 of Junus's attacks that he can give before he has to really consider falling under Junus's life total.
Yeah, it looks like Indrek might be agreeing with your line of thought here, saying no blocks down to 19 now. Does have 3 gold to work with, so could Gravy at instant speed just to try to cycle that ally if need be.
Why is cycling allies important? They don't block.
Looks like
part of the art of casting is gracefully mixing in information that people maybe in your mind should already know.
Just taking a moment here. Gonna crack that fealty.
This is an interesting
Crack that fealty. What does fealty do? What is it going to enable here?
line. I wonder... Okay, it does just want to convert it onto the Fire Strike.
Empty calorie casting right there, Jesse. Wants to convert it on the Fire Strike, thereby getting the +1 from the previous Fire Tenant Strike First and carrying another one forward, perhaps indicating that he just needs an extra Draconic Chain Link in order to feasibly flick a dagger and also buy 1 back.
Yeah, that 4 damage, go again, and then making another 4 damage is probably the best way to go about things if you're trying to force
Why might
that
he
Mask
need
Momentum
another Draconic Chain Link?
problem here? As we've seen, Indrek already used all 3 Blood on the Waters, so would have to either dedicate equipment or have more defense reactions. And looks like no blocks declared yet again. Indrek down to 15 now. As a Lava Vein Loyalty, comes in for 4 go again after being buffed by that second Fire Tenant Strike First. This one...
Jesse says, yeah, I was trying to recall the other cards and then it just floated off into the void. So I think I've made you guys very, very well afraid of verbal garbage. There are ways to cast well and also like buy time for your brain to process. So that would be an instance where, oh, I'm trying to recall the other card, so I'm just going to switch into play-by-play mode for a second, and even those couple words can give you enough of a mental respite to be like, oh wait, and that's important because maybe he doesn't have enough resources to buy those daggers back, and then you can kind of give the audience something to chew on.
Carrying the mask of momentum on hit, so Indrik might be much more incentivized to put cards in front of.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a block from Indrik on this one, but there is the Flick Knives activation that's going to keep the combat chain alive. So if he's going to block here, that means he also has to block the next one.
Yeah, and 2 of those blocking cards in hand are 2 Conquerors, so probably does not want to be putting down those incredibly impactful boats on such duties like blocking.
Can he play them is the question.
Looks like that might just be happening, though. 1 Conqueror of the High Seas put down in front of this Lava Vein loyalty, but 1 damage still coming across right now. Indrik.
I think he's potentially thinking about activating Gravy and discarding the ally that's in his hand, using Dead Threads to sink the dollar into the quick dodge flexors to cover this breakpoint, and then
nice, Jesse.
A little bit more of an option going into the rest of the defensive cycle this turn.
I feel like with the 1 card in hand already, though, that... Oh, nope. Not going to do such a thing. Quick Dodge Flexor stays on the feet of Gravy Bones as Indrik falls down to 14. Junis drawing a card.
And yeah, you almost slipped into a no but there, Ka. Remember what your co-caster is doing. There's a moment where you took a breath, and there was also a pause in game actions. He's just trying to keep the audience informed of what Indrik is thinking. And that is just as valuable if it doesn't come to bear as it is if it doesn't. I think I said that right. Let me know if that was confusing.
Going to be presenting Ravenous Rabble, revealing a red, unsurprisingly. So 4 go again here. Like...
Yeah, so the worst punish might be like a flick into a breakpoint. That could be really bad. Indrik has been sitting on this arsenal for a few turns. So a little bit of a gamble here, hoping that he doesn't get breaking pointed from the Syndra now that Rupture is active.
Yeah, that Rabble going unblocked. So Indrik down to 10 now. A very dangerous life total. Syndra can just kind of keep forcing you down with those Flick Knives and continue to threaten every single attack from hand. Looks like Rising Resentment going to go unblocked. Indrik falling down to 6 after taking 1 damage off of the Flick Knives as well.
Give me something, Cock. Give me something.
6 plays 16 now as we move into the Gravy Bones turn. Keeping 3 cards in hand, but at what cost? I feel like this hand has to be very strong.
And we have to see.
Cool. Okay, we like kind of got there. I think you could start the Rising action a little bit sooner on that turn cycle. Like I want us to have an opportunity to throw to the color caster before you have to get back on play-by-play duty. And I think where I want to be in our story is Indrik has taken an immense amount of damage, and while he might think he has a potent retort, it is now do or die. At 6 plays 16. This is not a comfortable blocking position when you're going up against a Syndra who's constantly slipping daggers in between your ribs, that kind of a thing, right? What does Indrik have to do? What is the spot that he's in? And what could this possibly mean for Junis? This game's going fast.
Fireworks on this turn are Indrik.
Even though I'm seeing that we have 17 minutes left, so
close out this game.
I know that this is going to be a little bit more of a slog.
Dead Threads activated. Blue pitched, drawing off the gold. I feel like Indrik really gambling on finding a second blue to make this Conqueror of the High Seas work out. But Conqueror into a large ally would be a pretty good way to start turning around the turn here.
Another gold.
Rest of the pitch value going to be used for that last gold. Indrik perhaps not finding that second blue off the top.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the gamble he had to take, but at the same time, Michael Hamilton once told me that you never crack gold if you are not sure what to do if you don't find the color of card that you're looking for. So maybe this could just be a bit of a punish. We have seen a lot of blues flipped off the top so far from Indrik.
I think we're assuming that it's a punish a little bit too early, guys. I think just because Indrik is not playing these cards immediately doesn't necessarily mean that he's screwed.
Jittery Bones and other various effects.
Oh, the third prismatic ley line into a cheating scoundrel earlier for Indrik. This might just be the turn that they need to really get back into things. It's going to be, could be a pretty wide turn if a second blue is in hand. But Murderous Rabble going to be swinging in for, what is that, 9? Wagering gold as well. Does have 2 cards in hand and a boatload of friends in the graveyard. 2 Rigor Mortis and a
Shark
Solvent.
1200. Man, Bryce is so sick.
So we'll be
I'm
threatening.
so sick I'm going to throw
What
up,
is that?
dude.
9 into 8?
Potentially, yeah. It doesn't seem like Indrik drew the second blue, potentially.
So yeah, we're talking about the draw sequence for Indrik again. I think when he kicked it off with Prismatic Leyline, Cheating Scoundrel, Murderous Rabble, we could harken back to, with a Conqueror of the High Seas in the hand, there's absolutely no way that this is the way Indrik wanted this turn to go, but 9 go again when your opponent's at 16 is not a bad start. Indrik making lemonade with the lemons he's been dealt.
But going 9 into a friend plus arsenaling a Conqueror
Arena
of the High
opponent
Seas is
361, you're too sweet.
a pretty
Thank you.
big life swing, and you're going to get this
Love you
on-hit
too.
gold, which could dig you further now that you know there's a blue on top to resolve that Conqueror anyway.
It looks like no blocks declared from Junis, so going to fall down to 7 after taking 9 from that Murderous Rabble. Gold created. 2 gold created as the gold bid.
Could find the blue now.
Second blue going to
No, he goes to
just
save fine.
pay
Okay.
for a Sawbones here. Coming across for 8. So is threatening lethal. Will require Junis to either put multiple equipment in front or a card from hand.
Did they have enough resources? I don't... Okay, no, they did not. I was wondering if there was a line where they could potentially resolve the Rigor Mortis instead and send the Conqueror, but I think not being able to do that, getting the Sawbones out is probably the highest value ally in the bin at the moment.
Yeah, because it means you can move into the next turn with the 1 damage prevention to cover up a Flick Knives, potentially. Finding...
Yeah, being able to stop Mask of Momentum chain links this late in the game is very, very important, and when every dagger flick is a 1/6 of your life total, that Sawbones activation can be very high value.
Yeah, and Indrik also knowing that they'll be drawing a Sunken Treasure, so at least one of those 4 cards in hand will be a blue for that quick dodge flexors. Might be looking to try and just make it through the turn alive and keep as many cards as possible to send back Conqueror into Ally, but players currently paused here. Not sure.
No. We're not. No need to call out that there's a pause unless you are trying to set the stakes. An okay way to call to that is, it's seemed like Junis has had his foot squarely pressed on the gas from the opening moments of this game, but all of a sudden, even though it's not the way that Indrik planned this turn, a Sawbones for 8 is finally giving our Draconic Ninja paused. Lethal, for the first time, has been represented this game, and it wasn't on the Burning Kunai's side. That's a way that we can draw attention to the pause, but not do it in an empty calorie way, and also find a way to meaningfully carry us through the pause. Right? We're telling the story, we're adding stakes, we're adding drama without just saying, yeah, and they're not doing anything right now.
Sure what's going on there.
I think Junis is just tanking on blocks. This is coming in for 8. You have to give something, but it's a little dubious as to what you're supposed to give, because the moment you start blocking, your hand as Syndra scales down much worse. So if blocking with a card...
Dan, I can't remember the last time I missed a 6/7 meme. I'm a little butthurt that I didn't see it.
Kind of breaks the turn, or makes it so that you can't threaten lethal on the following turn through Indrik's hand, then maybe it's I'm supposed to give up Mask of Momentum and my Dragon Scalar Flight Path right now so that I can push the maximum amount of damage on my turn.
With Indrik only at 6, that does sound like a pretty good proposition, but that quick dodge flexors can cover up a lot of damage, especially when your turn is just a bunch of 3 and 4 power attacks against a deck that's running a lot of blues.
Well, this is a moment where we can talk about player cams, who's feeling comfortable, who's not. All of a sudden, it looks like Indrik's feeling a little more loose, while Jonas's spine is slowly curling up like an armadillo. It's another one of those situations at the end of a Flesh and Blood game where you know you have to give something, but you just don't want to. You're willing the cards in your hand, the life totals, to be anything but what they are. But with 30 minutes remaining and so much on the line, Jonas takes a quiet moment of respite before making the decision that he knows he must.
Yeah, Jonas really in the tank.
There's so many ways to carry us through what can be boring television, quote unquote, and add something to the audience. We talked ad nauseum about adding value to the broadcast. Everything that comes out of your mouth should do so. You should do so with the intention of adding value. That doesn't always mean something directly related to the game. This is an entertainment product. You are adding value by keeping people engaged.
About this one wants to make sure everything goes right at the quarterfinals here. Has made it a very long way so far. Doesn't want to stumble.
Good God, that was an example of zooming out real quick to level 3 before we get back into the match. I feel like we could have done that sooner, and you could have, hung out there for a little bit longer. But it seems like it popped into your head like right before the action started again.
Blood Splattered Vest and the Dragon Scalar Flight Path, so willing to go to 1 to keep that Mask Momentum alive.
Spoilers,
Jonas
Jesse.
can use that Mask Momentum to block another time next turn, but with this hand costing nothing, perhaps just deciding that the Blood Splattered Vest would be better used for 1 value now. Try and threaten
let's stop talking about value. Let's talk about the fact that Jonas just went down to 1. He thinks he's got something good. Going down to 1 against a deck like Gravy Bones means that you think you're going to be able to carry these turn cycles back to back to back until it's over.
Momentum on this turn as well.
This is a huge moment.
There is a potential punishing play line here from Jonas that if his turn goes and he's able to actually trigger the Mask of Momentum, it draws into a 1 cost. He no longer has the bailout from the Blood Splattered Vest to be able to convert that card into damage.
2 of Indrik's cards drawn, though, are allies. I see.
I think
Chum
even if Ka goes for drama building there, Jesse, that's still a pretty good point.
It's another yellow strip.
It's I think it's a trope that I don't know if it's just my personality with my co-caster. Like oftentimes I'm the one who is getting hyped by everything, right? The quintessential moments in Flesh and Blood are the things that like gets my blood boiling in the way that I affect to the audience. And oftentimes my color caster, after I do something like that, it's useful for them to kind of like bring it back down, center us, and get back to the objective facts of the game. And the reason for that is like, I get people engaged and then they provide the analysis to be like, okay, it looks bad, but so, and it's the interplay between those two personalities that keep the watch engaging. And that's another instance of like a yes and, because they're feeding off of the energy that I'm giving and they're trying to also give hope. It's like constantly leveling up how intense the moment is.
Have enough blocking cards to make it through the turn here. Activating Gravy, discarding a Chum. But was the card found a blocking card? Looks like Quick Dodge going to be used with that Dead Threads activation.
Oh my goodness.
Sawbone's going to cover.
Gustavo, I'm going to not butcher this. Gustavo Stabellini, 4148. Thanks for reviewing our games on stream. I was participating on the event while managing the stream with other players too. Hopefully a lot of automation to help us. Junus was one of the stream managers, so we were double tired at this point. Man, I do not blame you guys. It's wild running a stream and also playing in the event. Kudos to you guys for doing that. I'm sure all of the Estonian players are so chuffed that you sorted that out. That's a really cool thing that you did for your
third
community.
point of damage here on this Rising Resentment.
Junus could get him here because of the sequence that he actually used the quick dodge flex. He's moved to reactions already and activated Sawbones. Junus could activate Flick Knives to eat this Sawbones prevention and get 1 damage over.
How important is that 1 damage is the question.
Yeah, or could flick in response to the Sawbones just to ensure that the chain link hits either way.
I think that's what Jesse kind of already just said.
Looks like no such tricks are going to be done, though, as Junus moves on to Chainlink 2, sending another Rising Resentment for 3 go again. Going to meet a Sunken Treasure this time. So 3
Immediately, Jesse, I want you to be looking at the hand of Indrik, counting up the non-blocks.
on 3 here.
After activating Gravy Bones, I think he's
my
still
opponent
dealing with 1.
Activated the quick dodge flexors. I really just want to try to get as much damage through as possible while ripping cards. I think I would have liked eating the Sawbones prevention on the last turn, because the Sawbones is not going to be able to attack you anymore. And getting the prevention in here keeps the chain link alive, but your chain ender does not have go again because it is Art of the Dragon Blood.
Yeah, that extra fealty might have been useful here. Junus perhaps getting a little greedy, making that Fire Tenant strike first into a Draconic just to get the +1. But Ronin Renegade has Chainlink 3. Another 3 go again presented.
So, Jesse, let me understand your pain point. Yeah, don't take anything I say personally. I'm still trying to learn what not to say. We chose your games. You're talking to Gustavo. Honestly, Jesse, I don't think anything you said was particularly off color. I understand that you are disagreeing with the play line that Junus took, which I don't know. If I'm gonna really get in the weeds with you, I feel like it ended up being the same either way. I don't know. It's a quibble, but like I don't think you did it disrespectfully. Is what I want to drive home to you.
Looks like Indrik lining up a card for blocks.
If that's what you were worried about.
Put down a Luca hold on blocks here, and Junus just putting out Art of the Dragon Blood to kill that Sawbones. So not making much in the way of taking down these last remaining 5 life points from Indrik, and at only 1 life themselves. Staring down Conqueror.
I think at that point you have to send that 4 damage at Indrik.
Holy crap.
I don't know if clearing the ally is how you win the game.
Oh, but the Conqueror of the High Seas sent out of Arsenal by pitching 2 allies, so not going to have that +1.
Jesse, yeah, maybe there it was a little bit too punitive for the Syndra player. I think that was one of those instances where you could say, like, yes, getting Sawbones off the board is an important task, but when you're at 1, I worry that this Command and Conquer coming in as a response is going to hurt you more than you hurt Sawbones, something like that, right?
1 might be crucial here. It means that Junus can potentially just give up.
Quaijin84 says, "Hey Bryce, let me express my thanks for doing these videos. It saved my life this past week casting our Nats. I'm really happy that it was helpful to you, man. And honestly, the national streams were kind of a splash damage that I hadn't intended, but after I think you reached out during the last week's stream or commented on the video or something, I was really, really chuffed to hear that it was helpful to somebody.
Like a 3 block, a 2 block, and that mask momentum.
Because yeah, man, everybody that steps up to the plate to cast their individual Nats when you have no casting experience whatsoever, like that, it takes a lot of guts, man. So really, really happy that you did it, and I hope it was a pleasant experience for you overall.
To stay alive.
Yeah, we do see that choice to kill the ally on the last turn, your 4 block, instead of putting Indrik to 1, coming back to bite him because he could have stayed alive, and he would have had Flick Knives for the following turn when Indrik's not going to be able to establish an ally.
Yeah, perhaps, but that Sawbones still would have been on the board to prevent 1 more damage later. But
That's
first,
fine. You have enough cards where you're going to be able to push through at that point anyway, because you have this Draco Fire and the Flick, so you can at least send 3.
All right. Yeah, one of the patterns I'm noticing between you two, I don't know if it's because you're getting more comfortable, is you kind of go back and forth. It's by no means like off-putting, but you are like combating one another on theory points on the game. I think we need to start letting that go a little bit more. Let each of you have your time in the sun, and call, like, sometimes if you don't agree with the point, the better response, actually for both of you, if you don't agree with the point, the better response is just to keep going. I mean, in the same way that we don't want to constantly be affirming what our co-caster is saying, you also don't have to constantly be denying it, even if you slightly disagree.
3 into 1. Keep moving on with life. You can also
That's another instance there. Sorry, I'm doing that weird adult thing where I burp and talk at the same time. Gross. That derailed my point. I think that was an instance caught where, rather than retort to what Jesse was saying and potentially egg him on into yet another point that is getting really tiresome for me and the rest of the viewers, I think you could have once again gone back down nice and low. Maybe zoom out to level 3. It is 34 minutes elapsed. Quarterfinals at the national championship here in Estonia. The tournament run of 2 players that have remained so strong all throughout this day hang in the balance. Junis on blocking duty at an uncomfortable 1 against Conqueror of the High
Draco
Seas,
Fire
that kind of
to
thing.
just demonstrate devotion.
And that's a perfect response to whatever Jesse said.
Yeah, but first, 7 damage has to be covered up here. Junis at 1 life means that any damage is lethal at this point, and one of those cards being a non-block in hand. Going to require at least 2 cards and that Mask of Momentum. Really thinking about this one. Unsure which cards to give up in this situation.
So if your co-caster's not jumping in there, that's an, like, yeah, if you kind of aren't getting the throw that you want, that's another instance where you can save your questions with a question mark. When you really need help trying to figure out what the hell to talk about at this point, I think an avid question would be, what is the best possible hand Junis can put together while blocking out this gravy boat? And that's something you can put to Jesse, and the challenge for you, at least in this game, would be accepting the response. And one of the ways I like to, I will say, just because I don't think this is representative of your guys' relationship as co-casters, but just because there's been a lot of dissent talked about in this game, and we've been talking about it because it's been representative, is another way to dissent is for the play-by-play caster to ask a dumb question in a really humble and curious way. If I feel like my co-caster is missing something, sometimes one of the things I will do is say, but is there any consideration for X? You know, like if you see a play line that is completely different, and like color casters will respond in a variety of different ways. I want to bring up Michael Fung here because he is always going to be the guy that, like, he just blatantly will go, I didn't even consider that. That is a really good line. Like, you know, he'll definitely give the laurel back to the play-by-play caster, at least in my case, when I call him on something that like that, even if I'm trying to be humble. But the objective there is just to be like, you know, hey, I missed something, or I think you missed something. And even if you didn't, that might very well just give color a talking point to inform an audience member who might be thinking the same thing. We talked last week about the play-by-play being the voice of the people, of the audience, and that's why it's kind of okay for us to be, quote, air quotes, dumb in certain situations, because we might be missing something, and if that thereby allows color to knock one out of the park, then we've still done our job. It is
really
playing.
thinking about this
Ooh,
one. I think
lots
at this
of
point in the
silence.
game, you just have to accept that you need to give cards. You can't give the flick knives. Flick knives is going to be the way that you close this game out if you get to take another turn.
Now, this is a long tank, right? And this is going to happen to you. One of the things that Scott Mines always does in this situation is he will always encourage the audience to give credence to the person thinking, especially because these are untimed rounds, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's got a whole speech prepared literally every time this happens. And sometimes I think that's just a way for him to get a little bit of space and not have to constantly be thinking about things to come up. It's not a bad point. I'm not trying to put him down for that or anything, but it just goes to show how many different ways there are to fill in this time. So continuously think of different ways. I'm totally losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm getting really exhausted. But Jesse, you're finally getting to the point, which is like, what is the best possible thing that Junis can do with his turn?
Mask Momentum, not really of great value here, because most hands that you can draw in Syndra at this life total will kill your Gravy opponent if they can't cover it, and they've used the quick dodge flexors already.
Yeah, I feel like that is something we see Syndra players doing a lot toward the end of the game, where they realize mass momentum's on hit does not matter because my attacks are saying on hit you die anyway.
And furthermore, Jesse, you could take up the mantle again, or Caw, you could have taken this as well. When your opponent is clearly not going to be able to establish an ally, at least on this turn cycle, you don't have that guaranteed zombie removal and also draw off of Mask of Momentum.
See, Indra kind of just head in hands, waiting for this blocking decision from Junis.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways Junis can present 7 on the following turn. You can block with the Demonstrate Devotion, the Hot in her hands, and your Mass Momentum, and then go into Oath of Loyalty, Draco Fire, Dagger plus Flick. Or you can block with the other cards and the Mask Momentum and keep the Demonstrate Devotion and Draco Fire to go 6 into a Flick. So it really just depends on how much he wants to gamble on Indrik not drawing a very good blocking hand. But we have seen in a lot of allies already. I think that's pretty unlikely at this stage of the game.
Nice, Jesse.
There is always a chance.
Really tanking on this block.
Guys, eliminate really tanking on this block from your lexicon. It can come out once, but in as much dead time as we have, I think I've heard it like 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, at something as quintessential as the quarterfinals of a national championship, every decision.
Yeah, Ka says, yeah, this is definitely one of those spots. I probably could have gone for the big zoom out. I think that's a tool I'm still uncomfortable with using. I feel like I was kind of getting a bit of a momentum. I think he's talking about like end of game momentum, but it just kind of sort of died as the tank was entered. And that comes back to what we were talking about last week, riding that wave. It's the players that decide the pace. You've got to learn to flow with them, be like water.
Really
don't try to flow against them.
In a game like Flesh and Blood.
Junis not looking.
Yeah, Jesse says, I just didn't know what to do with there's always a chance. And I hear you there. It was that could have gone 2 different ways. That could have gone a throw back to Jesse. That could have gone Ka continues a point right there. It seemed like Ka was looking for a life preserver or something like that. So I did just want to give you an example, Jesse, of ways that you could have continued that point. Which could have been like, okay, let's say we haven't seen enough allies at this point, and Indrik does draw up a good number of them. Those quick dodge flexors that I was just talking about are usually the bailout for heavy ally hands. It allows you to do some blocking even when there are pearls essentially at the bottom right of your cards. And with those gone, yeah, you're right, Ka. That could be the bailout that Junis is really looking for.
Happy with any of the options so far. I think not sending that 4 damage at Indrik the previous turn is really coming back to bite him, and I think he knows it.
Yeah, but
That
not
was
much
nice,
use
Jesse.
lingering on past potential mistakes. Kind of just have to focus on the present, and that is what Junis looks to be doing here with 2 cards in hand. Going to bring that mask momentum in here, covering up that 7, keeping the Oath of Loyalty and that Draco Fire. But we'll at least be presenting 7 back if Indrik does not draw a reasonable blocking hand. Could still very much have a game on our hands. Well, that's a Fiddler's Green.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was worried about by allowing Indrik to stay at 5 life. So the presence of Fiddler's Green has been a staple in the Gravy decks for some time now. If you put Gravy at 1, it really pressures the Fiddler's Greens that are in the deck so that the combat chain has to close, and you could just kill them with this card on the combat chain.
And yeah, Ka says, oh yeah, I'm like already drowned at this point. There felt like nothing to yap about LMAO. I'm going to go and find, there was an AG Open somewhat recently where Michael and I don't think it was quite as much dead time as this, but we got into the weeds with a really long tank, and he and I just went off. We did, go away from the game. And at one point, like when cardboard finally came back down, Michael was like, we must have missed like a million things. And I was like, no, like we literally bought the exact amount of time in order to get us back into the game. You can talk about other things. Like, it's okay. I did, and that's why I got into that discussion earlier about the adding value piece of this. Sometimes it is entertaining people in a boring situation. Now, I know that's probably not your guys' comfort zone, but just trust that you'll get a sense of when it's appropriate as you do more hours in the booth, and also as you get more comfortable with one another, you'll find safe topics and things that work. So don't feel 100% locked into talking about the game at all times. Providing value sometimes means not talking about the game.
Yeah, whereas the Gravy hero is untapped, so could just activate the gold and discard that Fiddler's Green immediately, if need be.
But also know that you will be in your local scene. So that could even be an instance to tell a story about one of the players. Or perhaps say, yeah, he's known for this. He can sometimes get in the weeds. And the thing that worries me at this point is I have seen Junis, like so many of us before, lose a game because you tanked a little bit too long, over-considered all of the possibilities, and ultimately ended up taking a subpar one, something like that. Connect it back to the humanity of sitting in that seat.
That's the line he's going for. Yep.
Exactly what's going to happen. Indrik going up to 8 now, but still staring down 4 power from that Oath of Loyalty. Sunken Treasure and Dead Threads cashed in here, covering 4. Indrik really preserving that life total now.
And there it is. Have we talked about the 2 allies in hand yet?
Junis just going to...
I think that's 2 allies. I think that's
Arsenal
Oyston
and pass here, perhaps hoping that Indrik just can't present lethal and can use that Draco Fire on this next turn. But Saltwater Swallow going to find a blue off the top, going up to 4 resources, I believe.
I think you had to push again on this. Not threatening any more cards out of the Gravy's hand pretty much guarantees that you're always staring down lethal. You're at 1 life. There's not really anything you can do.
Oh, did he keep the Draco Fire back?
And you're just going to have to devote more cards.
Yeah, Flick Knives covering up the 1 damage from Saltwater Swallow. Definitely not something you want to be seeing from the Syndra side of things, as Indrik has a multitude of friends to choose from. Decides to go for the Rigor Mortis here. Just going to send 6 more, and with a hand full of 2 blocks and a Lava Burst, there is no clean way for Junis to block this completely. Yeah, 3 cards devoted.
Yeah. Ka, you can keep going there, man. We're declaring winners of the turn cycle. We're coming down to the final moments of this game. And just like that, Indrik ends the turn higher in life than he started Junus's previous, and all of a sudden, what seemed like a slogfest that could go either way is coming up nothing but Indrik.
Pretty much all she wrote for Junus, so we're going to see this turn cycle go back and forth for a little bit. Indrik being very well out of the danger zone now after resolving that Fiddler's Green.
Yeah, Junus, with only the Draco Fire and Arsenal and one card in hand, has no real way of presenting lethal. And Indrik just going to be able to amass more men. Seems like Indrik may have weathered the storm here, as Kunai of Retribution going to take out the Rigor Mortis, and Blaze Headlong just going to be sent in for 4. I don't know how much.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-card block here just to keep that threat range away from Junus in case something should go awry. And I would be looking to establish either the Chum or the other Rigor Mortis here. I like the Rigor Mortis option better because it's potentially going to demand 3 cards from Junus, and I'm just going to be able to do that for the rest of the game, essentially.
And playing Call to the Grave at the start of their turn. 7 plays 1. Has had Junus at 1 life for a hot minute, but has not been able to close out the game. But taking almost every card from the hand every turn, kind of.
We didn't mention what we found in the yard. I don't think Swabby's name was mentioned.
Just has
Call to the Grave was mentioned.
The Syndra player.
Swabby's
in the
big.
Blender.
1 extra point. It's another break point.
Comes across for 7.
Yeah, we got. So I would be starting a build right when I see Swabby hit the yard, especially because Jesse literally just said, I like Rigor Mortis over Chum because it is more damage with the number of 2 blocks Syndra has. It's not a given that she's going to be able to cover it up. And then immediately Swabby hits the board right after you say Call to the Grave, and we can start building from there. What's better than 6? A break point of 7. All of a sudden, this swing from Indrik could be the nail in Junus's coffin. He is sending forth his Carpenter from the Dreadnought to see if he can get this one done. The hammer is raised. The nail is poised over the brain of Junus. It's a quarterfinals and
multiple cards
the Estonian national champions, and this could be it. Right? You feel that? Gustavo Stabellini is back. Bryce, one thing I think could help casters would be more information coming from Gem easily. We have built our own solution for viewers to keep up with tournament like this. Yeah, couldn't agree more. We do have some infrastructure on the back end, at least at LSS events and AGE events. That was obviously built by us. Casters get a lot of benefit from information, and there are personalized tools that you can use. For me, one of the things that has been super helpful as I've gotten to know all of the players on the world tour is Fab Boards, I believe is the name of the website, where all players that have prize winnings are posted there, how much they won, when they won, that kind of stuff has been extremely helpful to me.
Cards devoted, and the turn is passed. But with only 1 card in hand,
you have to kill this.
It'll come in time, Ka. But I do encourage you. One of the things that made me get good at it was, I called it the Michael Scott thing earlier because of the Michael Scott quote. Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I won't know where it's going. I'll just hope I find it along the way. Exactly that. When I just did that, I mean, I'm pretty tired, so it was kind of sloppy. But the second I start it, I'm hoping one thought feeds into the next. Eventually, you'll learn to trust that, but you do have to go for it. Like a lot of things in life, the way to learn how to do casting is to fuck it up.
Yeah,
we do see a fearless confrontation, though. We could be looking at the blowout if he goes with the Swabby.
Ignite at the Swabby, so 2 go again, and then the Kunai finds the fearless. He's going to scoop him up at that point. Looks like Indrik able to find a way through those dangers.
So not only did you guys have to deal with an incredibly long tank, you also had to deal with a somewhat anticlimactic finish. There's a world where that Swabby ends the game. In this case, it's a discard of a Fearless Confrontation. There was another opportunity there to pick it up. The second that Fearless Confrontation gets discarded, you can go, and adding insult to injury is injury, and that insulates you just in case the fist bump comes. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, but that's one of the saving graces of being locked and loaded to react in a meaningful way to big moments that happen. One of the things that I think was missed in both the games that were presented tonight were opportunities to react, to show the audience that something significant has happened.
Dangerous first few turns. Going to move on to the semifinals here.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good game from Indrik. He played that very well.
Yeah, so Ka, you have got to carry us all the way to this right here. The winner overlay, where we've got the gravy bones represented. We've got the close-up shot of our winner. Whatever you're going to carry through, your rising action has got to get to here. And that is when Jesse takes over and reminds us about the key points of the game.
Well, he got behind a little bit in the start and then was able to leverage his life total to come out ahead. Maybe a little bit of unfamiliarity from the side of Junis, but I think overall it's really hard to tell in those scenarios, especially when you're playing in the quarterfinals or nationals. Like, we have all the information up here, but the players don't, so I can definitely see why certain decisions were made.
Jesse, I do think that once we're into the winner screen, this is another thing where we need to act like a goldfish. It's time to let go the questionable play line of Junis at this point. Like, the results have been sealed. We're now accepting it. It's just like instance like the start of the previous game where the overcrowded should have gotten the Shuko, but it didn't. Like, once it's over, it's over. And now we're just talking about the implications of the tournament going forward. Right now, we really want to be talking about the winner, I think, the Indrik, rather than Junis, because it's their moment. And that's that. Cool. Yeah, Jesse says, yeah, this was the part where I felt like I was harsh and wanted to try and roll it back. I will say it wasn't harsh. You were never at any point, I don't think, disrespectful. Like, the most quote unquote disrespectful part of it was just that we didn't like let go of it, right? So know that you are not being you're not being mean or anything like that. It's just it was, the note is much more about like, okay, get off of it. Let's move on. Let's go to something else, because we can only hear about it so many times before it starts being boring. Okay, well, it is almost midnight. Holy cow. I promised myself that I was going to push a little bit harder and try to get these games done faster than I did last week, and I failed. So whoopsie daisy. But there was a lot to unpack there, and I think we learned a lot. At least I hope we did. I think you're sensing that the criticism is getting more and more nitpicky as you guys get more experience, and yeah, that's the way it should be. As we get better, we can fine-tune these details a little bit more, and I can give you more to think about. Overall, though, massive improvement from all casters, I think. In general, I will say I think Ka, in that last match, you did take a little bit of a step back when it came to play-by-play. I think you were definitely a little more comfortable last week. Jesse and Ka, we talked about how the descent is getting a little bit tiresome, and we can work on that. But overall, I think we were in a better place than we were last week. Proud of you guys for getting back out here and putting yourself out there for the Battleground, and I think you're going to be in a good spot when push comes to shove. I'm really excited to see what you can do on the full-on stage. I am going to leave this last VOD for another time. What I'm going to try to do is review it on my own time and send some notes to you. Oh my God, who is our last pair? Is Ka and Cara. So rest assured, I will give you some criticism there. But overall, once again, proud of you guys. And thanks to everybody who stuck around and provided some extra feedback for these casters. It's invaluable. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to make solid flesh and blood casters. And I'm glad that you were all a part of it. I'm very thankful that we got to do this, and I hope you found some value from it too. Go to freaking bed. It is almost midnight here, which means it's almost 3 there. Ka and Jesse, put down the pens and get some rest. And that's going to be it for me. If you want to see more of the thing we've been preparing these casters for, definitely tune into the Grave Troll Games Battleground this coming Saturday. That'll be starting at 9 a.m., I think is the round 1 pairing, and that is New England time. So it'll be 6 a.m. PT, which is where I reside and also where the production staff at Arcane Games and Events will be. That's going to be an incredibly exciting show, and it's going to roll directly into the AGE Open Series in New England the very next day. So you can expect more action, just going to be on 2 different channels. The Battleground will be on Grave Troll's YouTube channel. The AG Open will, of course, be right back here. So tune into both of those events. It's going to be an incredibly exciting doubleheader weekend, and it's going to shed a lot of light on what we can expect from the Pro Tour meta. And I'm really excited about that because I can't get enough of this game. So have a great evening. Thank you all once again, and I will see you next time.